Braavos had taken my warning seriously. By the time the sun reached its zenith the next day, the city surrendered, openly and completely. Braavos was mine, but even in victory, danger lurked. Hidden among the cobbled streets and high towers were vermin that needed rooting out, chief among them the Iron Bank. That institution had long been the true poison in this city, my city, and I was the cure. The nobles have surrendered unconditionally, my king, Ser Barristan reported, kneeling before me. A thin smile touched my lips. Good. Send the Unsullied. Round up all the city's nobles, bankers included. I want every one of them gathered. If I was to secure my rule here and now, I needed to purge the disloyal. Loyalty or fear, either would suffice, but I would not tolerate betrayal. Ser Barristan bowed. As you command, my king. He rose and departed with purpose, leaving me in the silence of my chamber. With Braavos subdued, there was little reason to remain. My army was intact. My hold over the eastern coast was unchallenged. It was time to set my sights westward, on Westeros. Daenerys would stay behind to rule Essos, the cities we had claimed under her banner. Her safety, and that of our unborn children, mattered more than conquest. Here, with her beasts and eyes in the sky and soil, she would be untouchable. Or so I thought. A man is surprised. The voice came from the shadows, calm, ghostly. I turned toward it. There stood a figure dressed in rags, reeking of danger, cloaked in poverty. A faceless man. Another visit? I asked, inhaling slowly. Here for conversation or something else? His hollow eyes met mine, blank, lifeless. A man seeks nothing. A man cannot kill you. But a man can cause you pain. My mind raced Daenerys. The children. But I had anticipated this. She was surrounded, always by beasts I could trust, bears with noses that could smell lies and disguises from miles away, hawks that circled the sky, spiders in the walls. The faceless men could fool faces but not instincts. I met his gaze. And what's stopping me from wiping out your order entirely? Vala Dohiris. Vala Morgulis, he intoned, an eerie smile flickering on his lips. All men must serve. All men must die. We're not afraid. We serve death itself. Cockroaches, I thought. That's what they were. Hidden, crawling in the dark, impossible to pin down until it was too late. Then why are you here? I asked. Speak plainly. A man wishes to strike a deal. My interest piqued. Go on. The assassin proposed a bizarre bargain. In return for a vow that no harm would come to my family. Ever. His order merely requested the right to bury me when I died. Not to use my face, not to desecrate my corpse, but to return me to the god they served. Personally, it was strange. Too simple. But I had learned something in war. When an enemy offers peace on favorable terms, you accept it and watch your flanks. Very well, I said at last. Deal. A man is pleased. And with those words, the ghost disappeared, leaving more questions than answers behind. I exhaled. That was unusual. Oberin Martell, POV. When I arrived in Braavos, I expected resistance. What I saw instead was total submission. The young bear had conquered the city in less than a week. Impressive. No, terrifying. You don't lead the Dothraki by being lucky. You lead them by being powerful. To win wars like this, you had to be more than strong. You had to be brilliant. That boy was both. State your business, a stern voice snapped. An Unsullied stood in my path, spear leveled at my chest. I chuckled. Oberin Martell. Sent by the queen. I will inform the king. Do not move. No small talk. No wit. The Unsullied were still as dry as I remembered. It brought back memories of training among them, painful, honorable memories. At least give me your name, I teased, smiling. Lancelot. Well, that was unexpected. Not the usual demeaning name given to Unsullied. I like this one already. No rush. I'll wait right here, I said with a wave. House Mormont, POV. Oberyn finally arrived. Late, yes, but intentions matter more than timing. With Dorne, I had the backing of two of the remaining great houses of Westeros. The Greyjoys were ghosts now, and the rest were waiting to pick sides or die. It was time to gather ships, mobilize my army, and set foot on Westeros. My plans for King's Landing were extensive. Thousands of rats infested that nest, and I had just the poison. "My king," Oberyn said with a bow. "Let's skip the pleasantries," I replied. "You want the Lannisters dead. I want Westeros." "That works. But what happens after Tywin and his dogs are gone? Will Dorne still stand with me when your revenge is fulfilled?" Oberyn studied me for a moment. Then he laughed, a deep, amused sound. "Straight to business. I admire that. Don't worry, my king. Dorne's loyalty is yours, so long as we get what we came for." His voice darkened, his joy draining into something cold. Vengeful. A different man sat before me now, one shaped by loss and fury. "Then we have an understanding," I nodded. "Tywin, Gregor, and the rest, they're yours. Do with them what you will. But Joffrey, he's mine. Then I will serve you loyally," Oberyn said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And just like that, we had struck a pact, born not of love but mutual hatred. The best kind. Ronard Mormont POV. The time had come to claim the crown. But before I could set sail for Westeros, I had to ensure Daenerys had the strength to hold Essos in my absence. Our conquests needed more than banners. They needed steel. Out of our 100,000-strong army, I left her with 30%. 40,000 elite soldiers, disciplined and hardened. And beyond them, another 40,000 beasts under her command. Horses, bears, wolves, ravens, and creatures that no man dared challenge. 80,000 warriors bound not just by loyalty, but by blood, fear, and reverence. As for me, I would take 65,000 of our finest westward. The rest? Neltharion would fly at my side, unrelenting in his demands to join the war. And I had no intention of stopping him. With Braavos under control and the city's rot purged, there was nothing left for me here. Our hold on Essos was unshakable. The storm would now sail west. "You should let me come," Daenerys argued, eyes blazing with a fire I adored and feared. I understood her frustration. She wanted to be there when the Lannisters fell. But her presence in Westeros would make her a target. Here, she was untouchable. The Krakens patrolled the sea, and my spies filled every corner of the free cities. No enemy would reach her alive. "I know, my love, but I need you to hold Essos. You're its queen now. Rule it for me." I kissed her hand gently, watching the resistance in her eyes soften. "I understand, but I don't like it," she whispered, trying to smile. The way she looked at me, longing, unwilling to be apart, warmed me more than any crown. She loved me more than vengeance. That was a rare and terrifying kind of love. "ABA," babbled Gerald, clumsily reaching toward my beard. I chuckled and kissed his forehead. "You two are going to kill your father with that cuteness." Alyssa squealed with laughter, clutching Daenerys' fingers like they were treasure. Her giggles echoed like music through the chamber. "Is Daddy funny?" Daenerys asked, playing along. Alyssa answered with more joyous squeals. I hoisted the twins into the air, holding them as if the entire world was theirs. With Daenerys, I found love. But with my children, I found purpose. They were my gravity now. I would die for them, kill for them, burn the world to ash for them, without hesitation. Oberin Martell POV. After helping my new king cleanse Braavos of its rats, I challenged him to a friendly duel, just to see. I needed to know what kind of man we were following. I lasted less than a minute, and truthfully, that minute was mercy on his part. I was no novice with the spear, and yet I felt like a child standing before a storm. No matter how hard I trained, I knew I could never bridge that gap. But I wasn't bitter. On the contrary, I was relieved. Strength like his meant safety for Dorne. Intelligence like his meant victory. In Dorne, we follow leaders, not bloodlines. It didn't matter that he came from a lesser house. He had proven his worth. The marriage to Daenerys only made his claim more palatable, but he didn't need it. "Well," I muttered with a smile, strapping my armor as I looked toward the west. "Things are about to get interesting." Tywin Lannister POV. Renly Baratheon was dead. Some whispered of blood magic, shadows in his chamber. Others claimed betrayal. Frankly, I didn't care. What mattered was opportunity. His death opened a path forward. By marrying Joffrey to Marjorie Tyrell, we'd secure the Reach's armies and tilt the odds back in our favor. Cersei, of course, opposed me. As usual, her emotions made her a liability. Cersei won't forget this, father, Tyrion said with a tired sigh. She doesn't need to. She's not here to rule. If she were, we'd already be wearing the Targaryen wolf's crown, I replied dryly. Cersei fancied herself a lioness, but she was reckless, our greatest weakness. For once, we agree, Tyrion muttered, pouring wine into his goblet. With Renly gone, we focus on Stannis. Still time before the young bear lands. I looked at him, contemplating. Stannis is a seasoned commander, far more than his brother ever was. But charisma? None. He inspires obedience, not loyalty. He'll fall. Eventually. Tyrion raised his cup. To eventualities, then. Olenna Tyrell, POV. Renly's death was unfortunate, but not entirely unwelcome. The Lannisters came to us swiftly. Desperation smelled stronger than perfume. Perhaps they killed him themselves. Perhaps they simply saw the abyss House Mormont represented. They offered Marjorie to that monstrous boy, Joffrey. I had heard the rumors, cruel, mad, unhinged. I would not let my granddaughter marry a rabid dog. Tommen, on the other hand, was soft, kind, malleable. Joffrey had to die. When do we go to King's Landing, grandmother? Marjorie asked, blissfully content at the idea of becoming queen. In 1 month, I replied, smiling faintly. Poor child. So eager. So blind. She was lucky she had me to guide her. My son would have sold her for a lordship and a cask of wine. Jon Snow POV. The others were real. They were evolving, moving, learning. I had seen it with my own eyes and barely lived to tell the tale. My scout party was gone. I was the only one left. But just as I turned to flee and warn the realms of men, a voice as cold as the wind of the grave stopped me. Humanity's time has run out. A tall, dead thing stood before me, eyes like frozen voids. You walk in shadow now, child of fire. The light will not protect you here. Its voice was hollow, ageless. All will serve in death.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
After making sure Daenerys had everything under control, I proceeded to mobilize all the ships, which were barely enough to move all the men and animals I was moving over the west. My initial destination would be the north, where I would go to see Lord Stark to discuss the terms of our alliance. Then I would let my army rest, so that everyone would be at their best when the war really began. It will take us a month to get there. Oberyn sighed in annoyance, but I suppose it worth the wait. With how you act, I would have thought you loved traveling. Was that assumption incorrect? I inquired as I kept my gaze on the sea. I love traveling, Oberyn replied with a soft chuckle. What I hate is the waiting, the time in between. Understandable. I nodded in agreement as I walked to my cabin, leaving Oberyn alone. My mission was to get some peace and quiet. How oblivious I was that concept was now impossible for me. Not only I was a king, I was a dad, which made peace and quiet an impossibility for me. And that concept was reaffirmed in my room, because upon entering said room, I found Neltharion fighting with one of the battle bears, both locked on the floor, biting each other on an epic duel of, I don't know. A quick glance to my bed reveals it had been torn to pieces by the collateral damage of this fight. Neltharion had taken it upon himself to fight anyone, and when I asked him why, he would only answer that he wanted to be as strong as me, and he needed the experience, which usually made me ignore his odd behavior because, well, I'm not made out of stone. That he wants to be like me is adorable and pushes all the right buttons for me to let him do his thing. I'm too tired to be dealing with this shit. I sighed as I walked out of the room, not wanting to defuse whatever situation they had. My new destination, my backup room, a room especially designed for these types of emergencies. Jon Snow POV. Fear. Fear was a common thing. You can deal with it, but that doesn't make you fearless. All my life I had dealt with my fears, but what I saw that day. That thing. How his mere presence made me the grip of death. That was something I wasn't prepared to deal with. Don't be afraid. I won't kill you yet, but let the bear know I'm coming for him and in my path. All life will end. I had been forgiven, spared just because I served a purpose, a menial purpose, to deliver a message. I wanted to fight. I wanted to kill that thing for what it did to my brothers in the Watch. But my entire body refused to raise a finger against him. No matter how hard I tried, all I could do was see him leave, not before he desecrated even more my fallen brothers by raising them from the death, to be nothing but mere puppets. Humanity as a whole was at risk. The crown, the lands, the power, nothing would matter if we didn't stop that monster. This was bigger than me, bigger than the Game of Thrones, and more importantly, bigger than my oath to the Watch. I had to break my oath, and even if I ended up dead because I had deserted the Watch, it would be worth it if I managed to warn just one person. We are leaving tonight, Ghost. I petted my one trustworthy friend, who tilted his head in confusion. Lord Snow, hurry up and go and clean the gates. One of my superiors shouted. This was my opportunity. No one ever supervised me when cleaning the gates that were going south. No one suspected of me. After all, I came here out of my free will. This was perfect, especially because it was night. It would take them a while to notice I was gone, and by the moment they did notice, it would be too late. Yes, sir. I nodded, going to the gates with Ghost behind me. Hours passed by, and my moment to escape finally came when the Watch was switching the men to watch over the tower. I ran like never before, knowing full well that if I stopped even for a second, my life would be forsaken. I had to, for I no longer was fighting for myself, but for the living. I had to survive just 1 month. That's all the time I needed to get back to Winterfell and warn my father of this. Young Griff POV. House Mormont was the biggest threat to my reign. He had a massive army. He was good at leading, and he was married to my aunt. All I had was the Golden Company, and that wasn't enough to deal with him. Not only he was a thorn on my side on Essos, but he was also one in Westeros. My sources say he has alliances with Dorne in the north. There was a chance I could win Dorne over by offering them my hand in marriage, but I had a feeling I would die before I even managed to move with that plan. So I had to resort to other means to achieve what I wanted. I had heard stories of how the free folk are numerous and good at fighting, and how they would do anything to go across the wall. Them alone were more than enough to fight Ronard, perhaps even outnumber his army, and all I had to do in order to win was offer the wildling what they have always wanted, their freedom, in exchange for loyalty. Are you sure this is the best idea, my king? Jon Snow inquired. It is, I nodded. We need the army for the bear to fall. The Golden Company is with you, my king, the commander of the Gold Company said, kneeling. I'm glad, my friends, I smiled, for we are about to venture to wild lands. We are going beyond the wall. We'll follow you there, and to hell if necessary, my king, my men chanted. And I knew things would turn just fine. I was born to be king, and no bear would stand chance against a true dragon. Daenerys POV. Ronard had left, once again. These days it seemed like our time together was a thing of the past now. And while I knew it was for our cause, I couldn't help but miss him. But I had to play my part. He was trusting me to keep Essos under control, and I would do more than that. I would conquer the rest of Essos in our name. So when the time to go west comes, nothing will ever tear off apart. I had Crow and Rhaegal with me. With them, I would destroy our enemies on this side of the sea with blood and fire for my husband, and more importantly for my kids. What are your orders, my queen? Daisy inquired. We're going to Yunkai. I informed her. We are taking that city. I will finish what my husband started. I will eliminate our enemies. Daisy looked at me for a second before kneeling. My sword is yours to command. I would die for you, not because you are my queen, but because you are my family. I smiled, and I'm glad every day of my life to be part of it. My words were nothing but the truth, and because of it I would protect them. My trip to Westeros was pretty much uneventful, with some minor problems, but most of them were Neltharion fighting animals, because of his so-called training. The north was just as I remembered, cold and oddly welcoming. I kind of missed the non-complicated days where all I had to worry about was my house. Here we are, Oberin muttered. I don't know how you northerners survive in here. So cold. I suppose some northerners would say the same about Dorne. I chuckled. Fair enough. Oberin nodded. We continued chatting about random stuff as we approached Bear Island. From afar I could see my great aunt waiting for me with my men and the remaining bears on the island. It took my ship around 20 minutes to get to the coast, where I jumped out of the ship, landing in front of my aunt with a big smile. "Hello there," I smiled. "You'll be the death of me." Meej sighed with a chuckle. "Doubt it." I gave her a look that said, "Your two daughters are maybe worse than me. Go to another continent and stuff." "Well, every Mormont woman is crazy one way or another." Meej laughed. I hummed, pretending I was deep in thought before nodding. "I can testify to that." "So what can we do for your highness?" Meej said as she knelt. No sign of hesitation. No anger at me for going for the crown. Nothing. I actually expected her to be a tad more volatile this reunion. "Well, for now, any news?" I inquired. "The Starks pledged themselves to you and offer a betrothal between Daisy and Robb." Meej informed me, which in turn immediately made me laugh, to the point of gasping for air. I knew they wanted to marry Robb to Daisy, not that I would accept, but if Daisy accepted this proposal. I can already tell who will be the lady on that equation. "I'm sorry," I finally managed to say, after composing myself a bit, "but every time I imagine them together, it makes me laugh." Meej eyed me for a second before starting to laugh. I thought I was the only one. "Anyway, we're going to rest here for a couple days before leaving to Winterfell," I said, deciding to go back on track. "In the meantime, you are in charge of accommodations. Also start gathering our men, Ironborns included. We will march full strength soon, so it's better to have them ready." "As you wish," Meej nodded. "Perfect," I smiled. Jon Snow POV. I have no idea how long I've been running, hiding, making sure my brothers in the watch don't catch me. It has been rough for me. By this time I thought I would be home with my family, but evading the party they had sent after me had derailed me from my original path. But I had to persevere. My life was inconsequential in the great scheme of things. I was but a mere messenger, but one with a very important message. That night will forever haunt me. The night I fully realized I was too weak, a bastard that couldn't even die right. But besides the fact that winter was coming for us all, there was another thing that didn't make much sense to me. Why did that monster refer to me that way, calling me a dragon? Did that have something to do with my mother? No, I must focus. I'm the only that knows about the dangers beyond the wall. What or how that monster talked to me is irrelevant right now. If we keep this pace, we should be 1 in 1 or 2 weeks, Ghost. I petted my companion. Growl? Ghost tilted his head. I don't know, but we are in it together. I chuckled, feeling as if he asked me what would be of us after we deliver the message. I would probably die for deserting the watch, but Ghost could stay with my family. After all, he didn't break an oath. Ned Stark POV. Jon had deserted the watch. A raven from a wall had arrived with this problematic news. This was unexpected and unbecoming of him. Why would he do such a thing? Why would he abandon his oaths? He must have a reason to do it. But what? He was safe on the wall. He was finally out of everyone's reach. I promised his mother, my sister, I would keep him safe from this world, from this game. And he was safe in the wall of someone. If the wrong person discovered his real identity, it would be the end of him. Ronard would kill him if he thought Jon represented a threat to his claim, and even if that didn't come to happen, the Watch would claim his head for deserting them. So the only way to protect my son was finding him first. "Jon, where are you?" I muttered. House Mormont POV. 3 days later. Jon had deserted the Watch. Well, that was unexpected. I always thought him to be the kind of guy that never misses a day of work and follows every rule in the book. Then again, the TV show, he kind of banged a wilding, the supposed natural enemy of the Watch. So perhaps he is a rebel in disguise. And now he was going to die because of it. Nonsense. How utterly stupid the system of the wall is. I can understand criminals being forced to stay and never fuck, but volunteers should follow different rules. Jon is an idiot, not going to sugarcoat that, but he's a good idiot. One that happens to fill or fit a position I had in mind. With his total lack of ambition, the job was made for him. Jon Targaryen, Lord of House Targaryen, he would be the perfect lord, being that he would be the only one not trying to stab me for power. All right, I nodded, deciding I would help the stupid wolf out of this situation. So with a smile, I ran out of my room to Oberin's. "Oh, for the love of Dorne, you need a bell." Oberin chuckled, pointing out I had startled him. "What can I do for you, my king?" "Well, how do you feel about going to hunt a missing crow?" I smiled. "You aren't giving me much information, but yes, sure, I'm in." Oberin smirked. But if you want a time alone, we don't need excuses. I slowly raised an eyebrow as I said, "You are barking at the wrong tree, pal. I don't swing that way." Oberyn smiled. "You can't judge a man for trying. Now, can you?" "I can, and I am." I wasn't really sure if he was confident on his sex appeal or was delirious. "Just don't tell the queen," Oberyn muttered. "I would make a terrible unsullied." "Yeah, I kind of want to now." I smirked at him, wondering what the hell did my beautiful wife tell him for him to lose his cool demeanor for a second. Oh well, on the bright side, I already have a bunch of kids, so I suppose it already served its purpose. Oberyn laughed. I have to admit, Oberyn is an interesting guy, that even on the side of losing his best friend, he keeps on smiling and joking and messing around. I wonder if everyone in Dorne is like him. "Nothing against your preferences, but don't hit on me again, got it?" I informed him. Duly noted, but it was mostly a joke to be honest. Oberyn chuckled. "How so?" I inquired. "Since the day we had our little duel," Oberyn sighed, "I was made aware of the vast difference between our skills, and I don't like that. I like to be the one leading if you catch my drift, but I was curious to see how you would react to me hitting on you. Frankly, better than your wife. She can be quite territorial." "Oh, I see." I nodded as I pushed him against wall, holding his body by neck above the ground with my hand. "If you hit on my wife again, let's just say your brother will be able to kick your ass from that wheelchair of his, understand?" "Scratch my last statement." Oberyn coughed, gasping for air. "You too are territorial." "Then don't mess with us," I growled. "Roger that." Oberyn nodded, his eyes turning a bit red before I dropped him. "Wow. Well, good to know your triggers before I trigger them. Anyway, what was that about us hunting a crow?" "Finding Jon was easy, barely an inconvenience. Being that I had over 100 ravens looking for him, it took a few hours to get his location and another few to arrive where he was. From afar I could see he was tired, like he hadn't slept for quite a while. His entire setting was depressing. By his side, there was a big white dire wolf. Quite the creature, majestic if I might add. A few hundred meters away, I could hear the hounds from the watch, coming for him, howling in their persecution. "We are looking for that kid." "Why?" Oberyn chuckled. "He has a role to fill, and is the only one I know that can." I rolled my eyes at the old snake as I slided through the snow towards Jon. It took a few moments, but as Wolf was the first one to notice me, Ghost immediately put on a defensive position in front of Jon, making me chuckle. How adorable. I wrestle with dragons. A wolf is a day in the spa for me these days. Hell there. I rolled towards Jon, landing on a perfect T-pose. "Ronard," Jon muttered in disbelief. Question what his eyes were seeing. And Oberyn said as he rolled beside me, "Oberyn, that was fun. So you can do stuff with all the snow around." I chuckled. "I have something important to tell you," Jon said, coming back to the living world after a minute of processing my sudden appearance. "No time to waste." I chuckled, pointed where the dog sound were coming. "They are coming for you, and I would rather avoid killing people to save your sorry ass." "I wouldn't mind. Killing people can be quite fun." Oberyn smiled. "Don't pay attention to him. He is crazy." I sighed. "Aren't we all, my king? Aren't we all?" Oberyn laughed. Ignoring Oberyn, I called the 3 horses I brought with me, giving one to Jon, and immediately rode us to Winterfell. "For the apples." One of the horses shouted with a bloodthirsty smile. "We aren't fighting Asmo, nor we will fight anytime soon," a more calmed horse said, taking a deep breath. "Well, we can still ride for the apples. They're good either way," my horse commented. Eventually, I started to tune out their conversation as I focused on the scenery around us. From where we had found Jon to Winterfell, it took us roughly 5 hours on horse, which on foot would have taken Jon a couple days or more. I already had some men waiting for us in Winterfell, around 300 to be precise. These guys were ones that I had brought with me beside Oberyn to help me with this hunt. But in reality, I had brought them for no real reason, besides giving their salaries a reason to exist. "I'm finally here," Jon said with a faint smile, probably thinking his father would cut his head for deserting his brothers in the watch. "The kid is making me feel depressed," Oberyn said, eyeing Job. "I don't like feeling sad. I have but 3 emotions, angry, horny, and happy. I don't want a 4th, make it stop." I had to stifle my overwhelming desire to laugh, as to avoid making Jon feel even worse. "It's okay, Jon. No one will kill you. Today, at least. I don't fear death. Jon sighed. I was ready to die the moment I decided to break my oaths. Once I deliver the message I came to deliver, I will be fully ready to embrace death. I eyed him for a second before sighing. You know nothing, Jon Snow? That feels like something catchy, like a motto. Oberyn smirked at Jon. I like it. I will use it now. Perhaps death is a gift. Jon muttered, glaring at Oberyn, as he followed us as we entered Winterfell. Inside the walls of Winterfell, there was all the Starks waiting for us, practically in the same formation they had when they welcomed Robert Baratheon in the show. Ned Stark was the first one to greet me, with a smile that tried hard to hide his doubts, not of following me, but wondering if I still resented him. My king, I have kept the North safe for you, Ned Stark said as he eyed me for a second before adding, You have changed a lot. I nodded. Lord Stark, good to see you alive. I'm glad my countermeasures to keep the North stable worked. That was partly a lie. I had originally made the deal with Varys to save the girls. Him surviving all that shit wasn't a factor I bothered to consider at the moment. But that doesn't mean I won't milk this cow, forever reminding him he is alive because of me. All thanks to you, your grace, Ned Stark smiled, my wife, Catelyn Stark. Approaching Lady Stark. As Lord Stark was presenting her, I noticed she was practically murdering me with her gaze full of disgust and hate. The love is palpable. I chuckled. Excuse me, my lady. Oberyn approached her with his trademark smile. I would love to invite you to Dorne. I'm sure my people can weaponize the venom coming out of your eyes, putting it to better use. Everyone gasped in shock, while Arya and I shared a silent chuckle. Don't waste your poison on that man. He is quite resilient, believe I know. You can't fool me. You are and will forever be a small good-for-nothing peasant, and if I had it my way, you would be dead by now. Catelyn hissed at me, but you will soon, so don't trust anyone in the North, your grace. Cat, Ned shouted. By this point, his face red with anger or embarrassment. Oberyn approached me and whispered with a smile, I haven't seen someone hold this amount of hate since Cersei Lannister, and let's just say it's not normal. You are nothing but a... Catelyn was about to start her verbal assault, but a glare stopped her for a moment. I'm not interested in the puny thoughts of an idiot, I said, making sure each word was loud and clear. Ned tried to approach and diffuse the situation, but Oberyn took a step forward with a smile that said, Take another step and we'll be dancing. I won't stand and let my family follow. Taking a step forward, I closed the gap between us, making her fall to the ground, fear starting to sink in on her head. Not only you have disrespected me, but also decided to waste my time with your sorry presence. So next time you would do well to remember your place and bow. I growled, seeing the tension building up around. Robb was like a cat ready to pounce at me. Ned was on the same situation with Oberyn. One wrong move, and a brawl would break free. I won't allow. Catelyn started, but I wasn't going to let her talk. Shut your mouth. I shouted loud enough to make an echo thundered through the city, making the birds fly out the trees in alarm, and in turn making Catelyn immediately comply. You have failed your house and your family, and your only chance to redeem yourself is to obey this simple order. You are to never show your face again to me, or leave Winterfell. Meanwhile, I will take the crown, rule the 7 kingdoms, and in the process, I will take immense satisfaction in knowing you couldn't do anything but comply. Yes. That. Clear. Catelyn was shaking at this point, sweating her own weight by the second. I made sure to let her know with my eyes should she speak again, I would kill her. Catelyn nodded, lost in thought. Good. I nodded as I turned to the Starks. I'm not without mercy, but if she ever threatens me again, I will give you a choice, Lord Stark. Killing her or going to war with me. Either way, she will die. All your choice changes is the amount of corpses you're choosing to leave behind. So remember that should she cross that line again. Is that clear? Crystal, Ned Stark nodded. Maybe I've been a tad rough with her and the Starks, but the bitch just said she wanted me dead and would make sure of it. This shit was the sequel for Real, Harry Potter, and the audacity of this bitch. After the little incident with Lady Stark, we continued the introductions. Sansa's among them. She smiled and hugged me, thanking me for saving her family, and wished me a happy marriage. That was unexpected. As for Robb, he was between a thin line of wanting to protect his mother and knowing she fucked up. After that really uncomfortable moment, We went to a private room to discuss a few certain things. For one, Jon wanted to tell me something that he said was really important, and considering he was in the wall recently, I can already tell what. Ned, on the other hand, wanted to discuss our alliance and his son betrothal, which we had accepted, but under the condition the arrangement could be broken at any given time if Daisy deemed the boy unworthy of her time. On my part, I wanted to discuss and start planning our strategy against the Lannisters. Father, King Ronard, winter is coming, Jon said with a dreadful look on his face, fear very prominent on his entire self, confirming my suspicions. And Oberyn inquired, summer is coming, and you don't see me crying. I chuckled, turning to Jon, I wanted him to continue. I saw them, the White Walkers from the stories, they are coming, Jon said, his expression filled with a deep fear that somehow was overruled by his strong sense of duty. Jon, that's a child's story, Ned Stark said with a worried expression his son was going crazy. No, it's not, I said before Jon could even defend himself. Elaborate, Oberyn inquired with a serious expression. He knew I rarely joked or messed around. It's one of the main reasons I decided to get the crown, because alone we stand no chance against the army of the death. I sighed. For the first part, one had no idea how strong the Night King was, and secondly, his army was probably bigger than mine as of now. Jon was surprised and relieved. I believed him, while Ned was mostly confused. Dragons are real. Magic is real. The White Walkers are, if you think about it, pretty believable. How do you know they are real? Ned inquired. I could see on his face he didn't believe me. The same reason fire doesn't work on me. I answered it was partly a lie, but it would get the job done. The same way I knew how to hatch the dragon eggs, and the same way I knew you would die if I didn't save you. Ow! Oberyn inquired. The god of light or R'hllor? I sighed. I didn't like giving him credit for all of that, but when in doubt how to explain something, used the default option, faith. I didn't consider you to be the religious type, Oberyn said, tilting his head. And he was right for the most part. I fucking hated the gods of this world. I'm not. Fuck this god. He put a bunch of responsibilities on me, and all he gave me for this important mission was the ability to survive the one thing the others don't use, fire. I spat, like for real, make me ice resistant or something. Yes, the fire thing helped me to hatch the dragons, but besides that, it would be a useless skill. A god told you? Ned said with a tone that said, I don't believe jack of what you were saying. I know it's hard to believe, but I have proof. I sighed, knowing the best way to make them believe me was showing them something so hard to dismiss they would have to accept my word as facts. Let's try and burn me, shall we? Well now, this is interesting, Oberyn commented with a chuckle. It was time to show the world that I couldn't be burned, and that fear would at least make the White Walkers/God story sound less crazy. So with that in mind, I proceeded, ordering a servant to set a campfire outside. Once the fire was set, I put my naked hand on the fire for 5 minutes. This is interesting, Oberyn muttered, looking at my hand with complete shock, seeing how the fire burned the wood, but left my hand intact. Impressive. Only the Targaryens were known for this uncommon feat. And not even all of them. It was said that just some privileged bunch among them were blessed with dragon blood, and like you had this unique fireproof ability. Well, I'm no Targaryen, I chuckled, my hand still on the fire. Impressive, Jon added, looking at my hand closely. That much is true, Oberyn chuckled. Turning around, I noticed something that I didn't expect. Ned Stark was worried, terrified, his eyes fixated on my hand, but I could see it wasn't the fact I couldn't be burned that worried him, but something else that bothered him. And then it hit me. What was happening through his head was Jon. He must have tried this with Jon at some point in his life when he was a baby or something. Either that or Jon touched fire by mistake, and this situation is putting him on an edge. But there is a Targaryen among us, I smiled, giving Oberyn a look. Oberyn's eyes widened in surprise as he immediately put all the dots together. The fact that we had come to save Jon, and that I promised him he wouldn't die. I never expected that of the honorable wolf to betray his friend that hard. Oh, this is priceless. Oberyn laughed, his eyes glued on Jon. Ned Stark was at this point sweating, which was by itself very hard considering the temperature around us. I don't know what. Ned, it's okay. I won't hurt him. I sighed. If there was someone I wanted to be a lord, was Jon. He had no ambition and was loyal as fuck. Ooh, what is going on? Jon asked, looking at his father. You. I pointed at Jon. Me no. I'm a bastard, Jon said with the utmost confidence of what he was saying. Nope, your father is actually your uncle. This comment made Ned tense up. Your mother was Lyanna Stark, and your father was Rhaegar Targaryen. Oberyn finished for me. It all makes sense now. Ned Stark breaking his oaths? That was hard to believe, but him lying was even harder to believe. We always assumed Jon's mother was Ashera Dayne, but even that was far-fetched. Father, tell me is a lie, or a joke of bad taste. Please? Jon said, confusion, doubts, and uncertainty on his eyes. He was starting to believe our words had some merit. You won't hurt him? Ned inquired, ignoring Jon. Never, if he tries to hurt me. Then yes, but otherwise we are good, and that was the truth. I would never hurt Jon, just because he had Targaryen blood, because of how he was raised. I knew I could trust him. Father. Jon was on the verge of melting down, his emotions fluctuating like a Christmas light. It's true, Jon, Ned said with a faint smile. Know that this doesn't change anything. I love you, and you will always be my son. Know that I didn't want to lie to you, but it was the only way to save you, to keep you out of Robert's sight. All this time, my mother was right underneath us. And Jon said with tears rolling down his face, all this time I thought I was a mistake, an error, something that shouldn't have existed. Jon, Ned Stark said, approaching to try and hug the crying man. You let everyone hurt me. Jon shouted, anger finally taking over. Lady Stark, Theon, everyone in the household. You let them treat me like trash. And the worst part was that I felt like I deserved it. Why? You could have told Lady Stark at least. To be fair with him, Lady Stark is not the smartest gal around. So it was wise of him to not tell her. Then again, I don't really know if she knows how to keep a secret. While it was true Ned managed the situation quite badly, he didn't do everything badly. My experiences with Lady Stark say she would have killed Jon by telling her sister or something. Shut up, Jon cried out. Hey, I know right now you're going through an emotional moment and all, but try that again, and I will introduce you to the ground, and believe me, your relationship with it will be intimate. I warned Jon. I will steal that phrase, Oberyn said as he wrote what I said on a piece of paper. Let's give them a moment, I sighed, deciding to let the two wolves talk their shit out. I have a feeling that if I stay, I will end up beating the crap out of an emotional teen, and I know I will feel bad about later. Fair enough. Oberyn chuckled, following me close behind. Asterisk caw. We will stay. Caw. Asterisk. Asterisk caw. This is too good to miss. Asterisk. Asterisk. I bet motherfucker A will punch motherfucker B. Caw. Asterisk. Was that a raven with a black coat and an eye patch? Jon and Ned argued for hours to no end about their little problem, while Oberyn and I passed the time in one of the rooms outside, trying to avoid the altercation, waiting patiently for both wolves to stop arguing. I knew they needed some alone time, ergo why I've been playing with Oberyn different games for the last 5 hours. You are unbelievably good at this game, Oberyn commented, moving one of the pieces. Thanks. I smiled, moving my queen to checkmate him. Once again I have lost, Oberyn sighed. While I love being destroyed in every single game we play, don't you think those two had enough time to deal with this? Maybe, I don't really know. They need to work things out themselves. I shrugged as I set the pieces back in place in the chessboard. I suppose, well, I already lost 50 games, Oberyn chuckled. I don't think losing 50 more will make my self-esteem go any lower than already is. Oh, come on, it's not that bad. I chuckled. Who in their right mind would play if they knew defeat was their only path? Oberyn said. And well, he had a point. He had been losing since we got here. Fair enough, I conceded, as if in cue Jon entered the room, his eyes red from what I assume was all the crying he did. Well, I inquired. Please tell me you two solved this. Oberyn inquired with a bored expression. I will kill someone if you said you didn't, and I already tried with Ronard, and that's impossible. So that leaves you and your father, Oberyn said in a playful manner. But I couldn't be too sure. He was unpredictable at times. I'm sorry for the way I behaved, my king. Jon apologized, probably for the way he shouted at me a few hours ago. Apology accepted. I smiled as Ned Stark entered the room behind him. We are ready to talk about the walkers, Ned Stark informed us. I eyed the two wolves for a second, wondering if I should try and see if they fixed their shit up, before realizing I didn't care if they patched up or not. I wasn't a family counselor or something. Very well, I nodded. Finally, Oberyn smiled, happy to do anything but play games with me. There wasn't much to discuss about the White Walkers and how to deal with them, because the plan was still the same. I would put the 7 kingdoms under one banner and face the long night of winter with humanity. No, with the living as one. Only then we would have a chance against the others. A part of me was confident I could face this challenge like I had done before with other challenges, but another part of me knew I could still lose. It wasn't a single man I was facing, but an army that doesn't slow down, an army that is fearless and has nothing to lose. I was but one man against a monster, but I would have to find a way to win for my kids, for my wife. I didn't care about anything else but ensuring they survived. I'm ready to be turned into the Watch, Jon said with determination. Well, too bad that ain't gonna happen, I sighed. You are part of almost extinct house. You're needed elsewhere. I made an oath, Jon said, making me wonder how the hell someone so stupid survived this long. I'm the king, and I get to decide if that wall gets you or not. I said with a tone that depicted that I wasn't leaving any rooms for arguments. You are Jon Targaryen, the Lord of House Targaryen. You are needed on the living Jon, and you know it. We will face the long night, and we need every man. I'm not fit to be a lord, Jon said with his head low. No one really is. This game fucks with your mind, believe me, I know. I chuckled as I poked him in the forehead, but we do the best we can, and I know you will now. Stop whining, get your lordy pants up, and shut up. Jon Targaryen was about to start with the same repeated line about how he made an oath and blah blah. But a simple glare was more than enough to silence his whining. I will fight for the living, as one of your lords, my king. Besides, the Watch won't be complaining too much. Of that you have my word. I smiled. My plan was simple, to buy their compliance with gold or men. I'm sure they would happily let Jon go if they got better equipment or more men. Of course this plan could still fail, in which case I would use force to subdue them. So I suppose I will see when the time comes. You won't kill them, right? Jon inquired with a worried expression. Oh God, no. I hummed deep in thought. I'm down either way. Oberyn commented with a happy smile. There won't be any killing, Ned Stark said, entering the conversation. While very rare and uncommon, is not impossible to get out of the Watch, especially if you have a king on your side and the commander doesn't complain about it, which I doubt he will, so you practically have your freedom back already, son. Well, that settles that, I smiled. Sansa, Stark POV. Ronard was different, more mature, more handsome, and more frightening. I wonder what kind of things he has gone through to be how he is today. Father always said, war changes a man. I suppose it's true, and if I know him like I think I do, he must be doing almost everything by himself, which most have him on a constant edge. But it didn't matter how much he had changed, because deep down he was the same guy that changed my life, saved my family, and showed me that life was more than following my role. Ronard sure looks awesome, Arya said as she practiced with her new rapier. I wonder how strong he is. Well, he is yet to lose a battle. I giggled. I read the Dothraki only follow the strong, and that the Khals must be undefeated to rule. And he has the biggest Khalasar in history, right? Arya inquired excitedly. Yes, I nodded. Then I have to train extra hard if I want to be his best warrior. Arya smiled as she continued with her training. I'm sure he'll be delighted to hear that. I smiled at my little sister. Catelyn, Stark POV. Fear was the main emotion I felt when thinking of Ronard now. I was afraid of him. His eyes promised me death should I cross him again. I had never seen such a monster before. He wasn't the young man I had met years ago, nor the bear of the stories that came across the sea. No, he was a monster, a very dangerous one. Please, gods, guide me. I prayed as I begged the 7 to help me. Ronard POV. Outside Winterfell. After a long day of seeing 2 grown men cry, I decided to go out for a walk. To cool my mind off, working every day of the week can be quite taxing, and walking does wonders to a troubled mind. Hello, a cold, icy, sharp voice said, startling the crap out of me. With my sword out, I turned around fast like a thunder to notice that the voice came from a raven. But this wasn't one of my ravens. No, this one was clearly dead, or at least it should be, because it was showing its empty ribcage with no organs. But the fact that his eyes were glowing blue pretty much gave that shit away. You are. I inquired, knowing the answer myself already. A dead talking bird only meant one thing, the fucking Night King. You know, the bird said in an emotionless tone, I came here to warn you, to tell you, you won't win no matter how many men you gather or how many monsters you tame. In the end, you are alone, child. And whether you want to admit it or not, there's only darkness and death awaiting for you and your people. No victory is truly assured. I glared at the bird. A mortal sentiment that doesn't apply to me, for I will command an unstoppable army that will lay waste on the living until every light in this world has been extinguished. The raven said with somehow an even colder tone that I could swear made the temperature drop a bit. I will stop you, so don't get your hopes too high, I said with determination. You are strong, Ronard, that much is true, but I am beyond strength, I beyond the living. I am the end, and I have come for all of you, and there is nothing you can do to stop it, the undead raven said. So enjoy the time you have left, for it's the last breath the living will take in this world. With that, the raven fell to the ground dead. Fuck, I shouted. The Night King wasn't like I had expected at all. In the show, he was but a pseudo-mindless monster leading an army of mindless drones. But this Night King was capable of critical thinking. Something I had failed to account all this time. But he had made a terrible mistake. He revealed one of his cards too soon. This, while beneficial, didn't make my fight against him any easier. In terms of combat abilities, I wasn't so sure if I was above him or on equal terms. Perhaps he was stronger, but that wasn't the part that had me on an edge. Which really had me worried was that, unlike him, I couldn't control all my army as if it were an extension of my own body. My men make mistakes. They are humans capable of fear, hate, and doubt. His army didn't have any of that. They followed orders without hesitation, without fear, without doubt. Because his will was their will, they would obey and carry out his demands no matter how hard and unreasonable they were. And to add a cherry on the top, his army would only grow in numbers. For every man the White Walkers killed, a new walker would rise. Fuck, I growled, punching the tree wheat the Night King raven had been. But even in the hardest situations, victory is a possibility. I had to exploit what I knew about them, their weaknesses. If the Night King was smart now, it was pretty possible he was already aware of his one weakness, Valyrian steel. That and the fact that if he died, every soldier would. So knowing that and putting myself in his shoes, I knew he would probably avoid direct confrontation if he wasn't sure of his victory, which meant I had to weaken his army. The only known weaknesses that the White Walkers have shown were their vulnerability to weapons made of dragonglass or Valyrian steel and fire. But their weaknesses weren't all equally effective. For example, in the show, it was shown that a White Walker, upon being stabbed by dragonglass, would make its body change as if freezing slowly, turning to ice from the point at which it was stabbed, causing the walker, apparently, a massive amount of pain. Depending on where the walker was stabbed, it will depend how long it takes the monster to die. Eventually, the walker will succumb to the wound and begin to crack and fall apart, as its icy body shatters until there is nothing left but powder. On the other hand, Valyrian steel is exceptionally better at dealing with them, having the same effect, but working much rapidly, shattering White Walkers with a single blow regardless of where said blow is. But not only that, Valyrian steel is also the only metal capable of parrying White Walker weapons that are entirely made out of magic, making it so that normal steel can't handle them at all, because it shatters on contact with a magic weapon. Fire was the weakest weakness in part, killing the walkers but being the slowest method available, but the most exploitable. I already knew how to make small explosives that would set things on fire and or kill a man, and if I tweaked that right, I could improve my explosive with dragonglass, making a pseudo-nail bomb. But instead of nail, it would be an explosive packed with dragonglass shards to maximize damage dealt to the White Walkers. I need to make weapons for everyone. 2 wars to win. So little time, I muttered, knowing full well that if I didn't bring my game to this war, I would lose. If I made one wrong move, the others would win, and I would be the sole responsible of their victory. Because for all I knew, my presence made their imminent threat massively higher than it originally was. If only I had more information about these fuckers, perhaps I could devise a plan to stop them. Holy shit, the children. And then it hit me, the children of the forest had created them, and one point they even controlled them, so they had to know more about them. How the fuck did forgot about them? But the last known children of the forest were beyond the wall with the three-eyed raven, and I had no way of getting there without dying. The Night King had proven that he had the ability to spy on me if I didn't play my cards right. With his undead ravens and animals, he could hunt me down and kill me the moment I went beyond the wall. You know, if you really want to help humanity, this would be a great time to pitch in. I shouted and waited and nothing happened. What a surprise, a fucking god that does nothing, damn it. With anger, I punched the tree with all my strength once more, which made some snow fall down on me. And considering all the shit of today, that would have been my highlight. But something else caught my attention. The snow of it melted, going from snow to water to steam. Okay, what the fuck? I looked around me, noticing the snow around my feet started to do the same. This in turn threw me even more out of loop, turning my anger into confusion. Whatever I had done stopped immediately after, because soon the snow covered what whatever I did melted. Three-eyed raven POV. The Night King has changed. He had evolved. One night, he was one thing. The next, he was somehow an even bigger monster, coordinated with conviction. It was my duty to try and stop him. I was humanity's watcher, but since he changed, I've been trapped, unable to fly. He knows I can't control animals that are dead or that are too far away from me. So he has killed every animal in the area, leaving me a mocking message behind. You are nothing now. Stay here and watch humanity fall as you rot. He had cut my wings, and through the visions on the tree, I couldn't contact people. All was left in the hands of that anomaly. House Mormont, the boy that shouldn't have lived, he changed the song, he changed the history beyond comprehension, and it was now on his hands to win this. With that in mind, all I could do was watch him. I will go and see the promised one. It's all you could do now, Leaf sighed. The first thing I found once the magic of the tree took me to Ronard was that he was angry, punching a tree, but what I saw after that was nothing I had seen before. It was as if his body heated so much that the snow turned into steam. He really is the promised one. I muttered. I had my doubts, but this was unbelievable. He had a connection to the light. What the fuck? Ronard muttered. With enough time, he could probably win this. But that was the main problem, wasn't it? Time we didn't have. Sooner than later the Night King would strike, and he wasn't prepared to fight this version of it. He needed time to fully spread his wings, and only then he would vanquish the long night back to hell. I needed to buy him time, all the time I could. For each second the Night King wasn't onto him, he would grow like a wildfire. I had melted the snow around me. The how. It was still unclear for me. Did the God of Light give me more than I thought he did? I was certain I didn't have any fire-related powers before. Shaking my head, I decided to focus on that later. I had to start mobilizing for the first war at hand. While my main enemy was certainly not what I had expected, the plan was still the same. I had to unite the 7 kingdoms and fight the Forsaken with the living as one. And if I really did have a new power I wasn't aware of, I would learn to control it along the way. My king, Jon ran up to me with a worried expression. You shouldn't be out here without any guards. I didn't know if felt insulted by that comment or flattered. He already cared this much for me. Maybe a bit of both, but for his sake, I will feel flattered. It's all right, Jon. I chuckled. I just needed to blow off some steam. Literally, I suppose that phrase isn't metaphorical with me anymore. Well, that's if I learn to replicate whatever I did today. Father wants to discuss our approach in the war, Jon informed me. Sure. Lead the way, Lord Targaryen. I nodded, making Jon uncomfortable, and I can't blame him. All his life he thought himself to be a bastard, and now he is being forced into nobility. I still don't think it's wise to waste such title on me, Jon muttered, his head down. Stop selling yourself short, Jon. I sighed. You are an amazing guy with a heart of gold, and considering how the 90% of people in this world is, you should feel worthy of that seat. For real. Do you really think people like Tywin deserve to rule? Yes, he is smart and very good at what he does, but he's also a piece of shit that would do anything and sacrifice to win. People like Ned, and you are very, very rare. I don't think I'm worthy, but I will do my best. Jon smiled a bit less depressed. I suppose my words helped him a bit. You better. I playfully threatened him as we walked back to Winterfell, with my mind eventually drifting off back to my encounter with the Night King. So much shit to deal with in so little time. One thing was clear. As soon as I won this war, I would take 1 year off. I deserve that shit. Tywin Lannister POV. Ronard Mormont has crossed the sea with more than half of his army. This was beneficial for us, with the Tyrells on our side, and with Ronard bringing just a part of his army. We had an army roughly the same size as Ronard's, which meant things would play out depending on our strategy. And while I admit Ronard is possibly one of the best players of the game I had faced in decades, I was still better. I had experience. This wasn't my first war, nor would be my last one. Father, Lady Olenna wants to discuss the wedding arrangements with you, Tyrion said, announcing his presence. The old rose. All she wants to do is waste my time. I sighed. Olenna was an annoying necessity for now, but if she thought I would indulge her because of that, she was utterly wrong. Well, I will let Lady Olenna know you are busy, Tyrion sighed. How is your sister taking all this? I inquired. Since the betrothal between Joffrey and Margaery was made, I haven't heard anything from her. She is against the idea of Lady Margaery and Joffrey marrying, Tyrion said, and frankly that information didn't surprise me at all. Sometimes I thought Cersei wanted for her children to die alone, that or she wanted to marry them. No one was ever good enough for them. It's a good thing her opinion is irrelevant for this decision. All my kids were a failure on their own way, stupid, reckless, naive, and immature. All I ever want to leave behind once I died was a legacy, something worth remembering and worth continuing, but that wasn't the case. I hadn't left anything behind worth continuing, if only Jaime would stop playing the idiot on shining armor. But there was still time to change the pitifully disgusting legacy I had, and I would do it. I suppose, Tyrion nodded. Cersei Lannister POV. Queen you shall be, until there comes another, younger and more beautiful, to cast you down and take all that you hold dear. The prophecy of all my children dying. I had to stop at any cost. The prophecy said a younger queen would cast me down alongside my children. It was simple, really. All I had to do was to avoid that date, was to kill any other queen and keep the crown. Margaery would have to die, for she aimed for the wrong position, and I would do anything to protect my children. Anything. You seem tense, Jaime said, kissing me. Of course I am, I sighed. I'm the only one trying to protect our children. Jaime pouted for a second before kissing one more time. Don't be like that. You know I love them, and would die for any of them. I smiled, I know, but I seriously doubt Joffrey marrying the Tyrell girl is that bad. Jaime laughed. It's not like he will die on his wedding night or something. Perhaps he will stop skinning cats alive and get a new hobby, fucking his wife. Jaime was lucky I loved him. He was so naive if he thought that wretched slut would live long enough to be called queen. She is not worthy of Joffrey, I finally said. Let's face it, my lioness. No one will ever be worthy enough for you, Jaime laughed. Because no one is, I hissed at him. All right, it seems someone needs to release some stress. Jaime smiled, whispering into ear those words in a seductive manner. As he licked my ear, I volunteer for the task, my queen. Jaime, my other half, my good half. Very well, I think you deserve some desert. I smirked at him. Varys the Spider POV. Illyrio was dead, and Ronard was here. What an unfortunate turn of events. If I had to take a guess, Ronard discovered my plots to try and manipulate him to support the young Griff. And if I had any chance for dialogue, Illyrio destroyed it, with his idiotic plan to destroy Ronard before he left Essos. And now with Illyrio gone, a young bear would aim his claws at me. And in the end, I had but two options, dying or helping him, because if he spread the news that I was the one that freed Lord Stark and helped him marry Daenerys, I would immediately get killed. He had me on checkmate. I had no idea if he knew this or not, or if he played knowing he would have me at his feet by the end of the game. But regardless of it, he had won, and for now, I had to help him, at least until the young Griff was strong enough to claim the throne. Once again you win, I muttered with a low chuckle. Once again the enigma of the young bear had vastly exceeded my expectations, but sooner or later he would slip, and I would be there to exploit that moment of weakness. 3 weeks after my altercation with the Night King outside Winterfell, I decided it was time to start moving with my plans, with the first thing on the list being most of my army in the north. Dorne's army would be waiting for me close to the Freys. The life of the old man Frey was in the big scheme of things inconsequential. If he didn't piss me off by trying to charge me to pass through his castle to the other side, I would let him live, but I knew he would try and charge me. If it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of how much. Well, I will deal with that when the time comes, I thought, as I discussed with Ned, Jon, and Oberyn about how we would proceed. First, I would have to deal with Stannis Baratheon. He was certainly a bump on my road that Tywin would use to weaken me down, so I had to play it smart, move with caution, and strike without hesitation. After eliminating Stannis, erasing his sorry arse of the game once and for all, I would proceed with the next phase of my plan, economic destabilization. There were three main cores that kept the Lannisters in power, for one. Until a few months ago, they had the Iron Bank lending them money, but with the Iron Bank under my control, they had lost that cow. The next key core was their reputation. The Lannisters were feared and respected among the houses of Westeros and the small people as the richest house in the Seven Kingdom. And while that was true at one point, it wasn't anymore. They were dirt poor now compared to other houses. Their gold mines had run dry years ago. Reason why Tywin had been relying so much on the Iron Bank. But with the bank out of his hands, he was in a difficult situation. Fortunately for me, this was a core easy to destroy. All I had to do was spread rumors of them being poor, and little by little Tywin would lose hold of his reputation. That alone was enough to make his hold crumble, but I wanted to add a cherry on the top, a rumor to destabilize Tywin and his children. I would let the world know that Cersei is fucking her brother. I would spread the rumors far and wide, left and right, until every person in the kingdom knew of their relationship. While this fact was already known, making sure everybody knew it would shake their hold more and would put in doubt the legitimacy of their rule even more. And last, but not least, the last core keeping them in power was their allies. Well, one specifically. The Tyrells had recently joined the Lannisters, and I knew Tywin had them for more than their army or money. That man was smart, very smart, because he had secured an alliance with the biggest food distributor in Westeros. Food was essential in war times. A well-fed kingdom doesn't rebel against their rulers. Tywin knew they needed the small people under control. Should they rise because they were starving, he would lose the war. The food was also essential to keep their army obeying them. A starving soldier will forget about their oaths and where their loyalties lie with. In short, Tywin needed the Tyrells more than he would care to admit. Destroying the Tyrells would destroy their house of cards, creating a domino effect of chaos and anarchy. No food, no money, and no legitimate rulers. If I play my cards right, I would have Tywin in checkmate. That is a terrifyingly good plan, Oberyn muttered with a smile, clearly surprised with how far I was thinking. It's quite the plan, Ned nodded, but I knew he wasn't exactly happy with my tactic of spreading up rumors, thinking it wasn't honorable. The faster we win this, the faster we can face the long night as one. Jon, like his father, didn't like the spreading rumors tactic, but cared more about humanity than the honor of how we won. I just hope we don't have to eliminate the Freys, Ned sighed. I think he's plotting something, but what I don't know. All right, then he is definitely plotting something. Oberyn chuckled. How do you know? Jon inquired, as I laughed, knowing where Oberyn was going with this. Ned Stark is suspicious of a plot. Oberyn smirked. If he saw through that man. He was probably laughing like a cliché villain while rubbing his hands in an evil way or something. Oh, God. I laughed as I saw Lord Stark glare at Oberyn. Hey, and no offense. It's just the North is so pure. The South is. Well, you have to deal with 3 plots before breakfast on a slow day. Oberyn chuckled. I'm still not sure how Ronard came to be so good seeing through them when he is from here. A gift that happens to be a curse, I sighed. With a Northerner as a king, we might finally have a kingdom without plots, Jon added. That would be great. Ned smiled as he turned his gaze back to Oberyn. Keeping the North pure, as you called it, is my intention. The South is nothing but corruption. On that, we can agree, Oberyn conceded. Well, let's rest a day. We're leaving tomorrow, I announced, getting a chorus of eyes on the table. Daenerys POV. Yunkai, the city I was currently attacking, also known as the Yellow City, it's one of the most prominent slaver cities on the eastern coast of Slaver's Bay in Essos. But they stood no chance. Their pitiful defenses would crumble under my fist, and I would claim the city sooner or later. The city was ruled by the wise masters. Unlike Astapor, where they mainly sell soldiers, Yonkai's main export is bed slaves, also known as sex slaves, which left them to buy their defenses, that at the moment were around 5,000 Sellsword soldiers. Compared to my 40,000 soldier army and 2 dragons, they stood no chance. Crow and Regal were almost big enough to be mounted. Nothing would stand in our way. Ronard would conquer the 7 kingdoms, while I would finish what he started in Essos, because we would do anything to ensure our children had no enemies. Miss Sandy, pass me the towel. I was taking a relaxing bath with my babies, but it was time to get out. But something was wrong. Melisandre never takes this long to reply. Miss Sandy, I must apologize, my queen. Miss Sandy came with the towel. But yours bears have captured a man trying to sneak here. Who would be so stupid as to try and sneak into my bathroom when I'm taking a bath with my babies? Who? His name is Dario Naharis. Miss Sandy, I answered. Taking a deep breath, I ordered 2 of my servants to dress the babies and take them to the nursery that was filled with bears and ravens that would die to protect them. And in the meantime, I would deal with this sad attempt of an assassination. I stood in front of Dario, who had scratches on his abdomen and back. The bears really did a number on him. What are you doing here? No, let me rephrase that. Did you really think you could kill me? Oh, dear Lord, no. Dario chuckled. If you open my bag, you'll see I came here in peace. Then again, I should have just sent a raven. This happened to me because I wanted to surprise everyone. His bag, well, I suppose I could indulge that stupid request. Someone open his bag. I will, my queen. Yora said, taking the bag and opening it. His surprised expression told me that what he saw wasn't something he expected. What is it? I inquired. He brought the other captains with him, my queen. Yora answered. Their heads, to be precise. Dario chuckled. I'm not a stupid man. I know I can't beat you, and frankly your cause is not that bad, so I killed the other 2 that didn't want to support your cause. I see, but you still tried to sneak into my chambers where me and my children were taking a bath. I smiled coldly. For today, sleep on a cell. Perhaps tomorrow I will feel generous and let you bend the knee, or I might still be angry and demand your head. Who knows? So take this time and pray to your gods. With that, I left the room, leaving a slightly shocked and amused Dario behind. With my army finally on the north, it was time to start moving south. It was time to destabilize the Lannisters. My ravens would take care of that. 100 of them would spread far and wide, dropping the information I wanted about my enemies, creating a social chaos. In the meantime, I would move my entire focus on 2 tasks, 1 defeating Stannis, 2 destroying the Tyrells. Without Stannis, things would go a bit easier for me, and I would get access to a nearly endless supply of dragonglass. And without the Tyrells, the kingdom would have no food. No food means no passive little people. No passive little people mean riots. And with the riots comes my attack. It will take us a month to get to the Frey's bridge, Ned informed, which brought me back to something I had yet to decide. What to do with the old man Frey. I knew for a fact he would not let me pass for free. He was too greedy to allow that. He might fear me, but his greed completely overrides any other emotion. And while his death was a guaranteed fact, the when was the question. Depending of how greedy he tried to be, it would depend or whether I focus on destroying his house first or leave him for last. In the great scheme of things, he inconsequential. He has no army to pose a threat, nor the wits to outwit me. He was a bug waiting to be squished on. Well, 1 month before this war starts, I nodded as I looked ahead of the road deep in thought. Things were finally coming into place. The end of this wretched game was coming, and I would ensure it was destroyed for good, for my family, for my people. I would win. But none of that mattered if I didn't win the final war, the fight against the others. Only then, the world would be safe. Young Griff POV. Cold fear. Despair. There was nothing but that beyond the wall, and I had doomed my army to this destiny. That was all I could think of as laid on the floor, seeing the monster that had decimated my army alone. Our weapons were useless. Our numbers were useless. Nothing we did made a difference. In the end, we were a page on a book no one will ever read. Life is so fragile, so pathetic. The monster muttered, his blue eyes glowing with nothing but a cold feeling of death. What are you? I inquired, focusing really hard on not passing out, blood loss already affecting me. I am the end. As his response sent a shiver down my spine, I started to see my men, the men that had come with me, The men I had killed on this trip by bringing them here rise from the ground, their bodies coming back to life. That monster pretended to desecrate them even after death. Someone will stop you, I know it. I chuckled as I felt my life starting to slowly fade away. I'm not the prince that was promised. That much is for sure now, but the real one will end this darkness. Light, so pathetic. Light thinks it travels faster than anything, but it is wrong. No matter how fast light travels, it finds the darkness has always got there first and is waiting for it, the monster said with a cold, chilling tone as he approached me. Before light, before life, before creation, before everything, there was nothing but darkness, and I will bring back the world to its original state. Now, begone, fake dragon. With that, the monster stabbed my heart, and as the pain spread through my body, I felt a cold, chilling sensation taking over, and I knew he was going to do the same he did with my men. Fuck you, I muttered with my last breath of freedom, with my last breath as a living man. Tywin Lannister POV. Ronard and Stannis, the last two contenders for the throne. Ronard represented a bigger threat in a military point of view, but on the other hand, Stannis had the bigger claim. If I killed one, the other would rise from the ashes stronger. Why aren't we destroying them? Cersei inquired angrily, sitting beside Tyrion much to her dismay. The opportunity of defeating our enemies will be provided by the enemy itself, I said calmly. We are lions, we hunt, and a hunt means we wait for the right moment to strike, not a moment after, not a moment before. So we do nothing, Cersei growled. They are trying to take our throne, and we do nothing. Behave, or I will remind you why you fear me, child, I said with a cold glare that shut the idiot of a daughter I have. All warfare is based on deception. Hence why, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When moving our forces, we must seem defeated. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. And when far away, we must make them believe we are near. And when they expect us to attack like now, we must bid our time and strike when they least expect it. So shut your mouth and let me do what I do best. The question is, who should we eliminate first? Tyrion inquired. Ronard or Stannis? They both represent a threat, but one has dragons. When the opportunity to attack arises, I will let you know. I informed Tyrion. For now, we had to plan every aspect of this war, from how to kill their soldiers to how to kill a dragon. Only then we would move. Peter Baelish POV. House Mormont, a brat that had outgrown everyone's expectations. He went from a small lord to the biggest threat to the Iron Throne, and in all honesty, I would ally myself with him. If it wasn't for the fact that Ned Stark on his side, I would die very fast. I betrayed him, but who would have known all this would happen? Too bad. Killing Ronard and marrying his queen, and finally becoming king, would be considerably easier than dealing with a Lannister. God knows Cersei would eat me alive. So unfortunately for Ronard, I couldn't use him, and he would have to die because of it. With the Freys on my side, I would eliminate that thorn on my plans and kill him. My plan was simple. The Freys would invite Ronard and his small council to dinner, and because the guest rulers forbade them from bringing weapons inside another's house, they would be defenseless. Then the Freys would strike, killing them. Happy ending for all. I can't wait for that old wolf and stupid bear to die. I chuckled. Too bad the Freys will have to kill Oberin too. The Martells will not be happy. Asterisk, HRM, an idiot he is. Stop him we will. Yes, HRRM. Asterisk, unbeknownst to Peter Baelish, an incredibly wise raven was spying on him and knew all about his plans. Walder Frey POV. Peter Baelish had offered me something I couldn't resist: money, power, and lands. And I would follow our plan unless the young bear offered me something better. I had grandkids, and he had a son and a daughter. If he agreed to marry my grandkids to his children, I would help him. After all, a Frey would rule if that happened. But if he didn't accept my proposal, he would die and his crusade would come to an end. I hope for his sake he accepts. But either way, I would get what I want. I always do and always will. Prepare a feast. The young bear is coming, and we must be ready. I smiled, ordering my men to be ready to join him or kill him. The twins, or more commonly known as the Crossing, was magnificent. I know the lord leading them is a piece of shit, but the castle and seat of House Frey is quite the sight. "We are here, my king," Ned informed me. He had repeated in the trip over 100 times that I had to be cautious with Lord Frey, because he only played for his own benefit, not shit Sherlock. "I know," I nodded, seeing the Frey's castle from afar. So far I could note that their castle consisted of two near-identical towers that were considerably bigger and a fortified bridge over the green fork of the River Trident, which made it almost impossible to cross to the south without paying them. Quite a smart tactic of the Frey's predecessors to rise in power, to be honest. After all, they made the twins represent the only crossing point over the green fork for hundreds of miles in either direction, turning their entire castle in a barrier to travelers and merchants traveling from the north to the western riverlands. And while you can go around, it would be quite the trip. Moving from one point to the other while avoiding the twins would require an absurdly lengthy detour of hundreds of miles to the south, or hazardously traversing the bogs and swamps of the neck to the north. Like I said, the Frey that had this idea was a genius. Too bad that what it took 3 generations to build in 600 years would fall under my iron fist. The Freys were unfortunately for them unimportant and brought more problems that helped, so I would have to erase them from the nobles' houses. It seems they were waiting for intriguing. Oberin smiled as I turned my attention to the gates, and like Oberin said, it seems they knew I was coming and were expecting me, because a few men were coming out towards me in horses, Lord Frey among them. I wonder what plot is cooking that old bastard. I chuckled. Well, whatever it is will end with him screaming and us laughing. Oberin smiled, making me laugh, while Ned and Jon sighed in disapproval. I won't kill people for fun, but that doesn't mean that when they do deserve to be killed, I won't enjoy it. I smirked as the self-righteous duo. Amen to that. Oberin nodded. Lord Frey had invited us to a feast, but requested we didn't bring our weapons. Sometimes I wonder, do I have a sign on my head that says I'm an idiot? Or something, like even without my knowledge of the Red Wedding, I could still see through this shit. But what it was new was that he wanted to talk to me about alliance first. So, if I had to take a wild guess, I would say he wanted to see if I could offer him something better that he had been offered, but unless he was looking for a slow death ending in decapitation and the total annihilation of his house, I had nothing to offer. "My king, take a seat if you want," Walder Frey said with a friendly tone. Impressive he can hide so well his motives. I suppose he has lived this long for a reason. "I would rather not," I answered as I gave him a look demanding for him to say whatever he wanted to say so we could get this over with. "Why, my king?" Joyeuse Aaronford said with a weak tone. She was the wife of Walder Frey. She was around my age, maybe younger, and was forced to marry an 80-year-old man. Her face of utter despair and defeat were more than enough to tell me she didn't like her life at all. "Don't ask, and do it, woman." Walder Frey barked at her. "I must apologize. All women are good for is to spread their legs and push babies out, and both require them to spread their legs, ha-ha." He laughed, the bastard laughed. "I'm sure you must understand the feeling. Was this your plan? To infuriate me so much that I would unavoidably jump at you and rip out that head of yours apart with my bare hands?" I growled. Indirectly, he had insulted my wife and daughter, and then he tried to connect with me by thinking I understood his wretched mind, and ended up insulting my family directly. "I would never do that, my king," Walder Frey said as he motioned his guards to stick close to him. "I just said women need to understand their place. Oh, please drop your weapons. If I wanted to hurt anyone here, I would have done so already." I smirked at the old man, and no, while it's true we differ in many things, everyone is capable of greatness regardless of your gender. I see it as a sensitive topic. Walder Frey smiled, and then I realized he was testing how to push my buttons. Clever old man, but why poke a beast you can't possibly tame? "What do you want for us to cross? Spit it out, old man. I don't have time to waste." I smirked at him, and considering your age, I would say time is a commodity, so don't waste it. This made Walder Frey glare at me for a second, before he returned his fake sweet old man. "I suppose you are right. Very well. What I want is your son and daughter to marry one of my sons and daughters. It could be anyone when they come to age, of course. I have one already baking with my newest wife." Wow. I chuckled. I had reached a point of anger. I wasn't angry anymore. This decrepit, old walking corpse wanted to force my children to marry his disgusting, pathetic, vomit-provoking kin? "I think it is a fair price for free passing," Walder Frey smiled. "Ha ha ha. I laughed as I tried to formulate what to say or do. This was a new level of idiotic boldness I was not prepared to deal with. You want to... Oh, God. I'm so angry, haha. I know my actions right now tell you otherwise, but I'm fucking boiling with anger, ha ha ha. I take that as a no then, Walder Frey said, showing his real disgusting self for the first time. Abso-fucking-litely. I growled, breaking the table between us in two with a punch. I won't force them to marry, and even if I did, it wouldn't be with your family. Walder Frey stood silent for a second, impressed by my display of raw strength. Very well. I suppose if we can't do that, you can pay the toll. 1 million gold dragons for a year of passage sounds fair? Yes, I smiled, knowing full well that after this failure he was going back to his original plan, killing me on the feast. See you tomorrow at the feast. Walder Frey smiled at me. I wouldn't miss a party like that. I smiled back. Oberin Martell POV. When Ronard had returned from his meeting with Lord Frey, he was agitated. I had learned to read his body language, for safety reasons. Ronard was possibly one of the best men to hang out with when he is happy, but angry he is a fucking natural disaster. I take it the old man pissed you off? I inquired, and Ronard smiled at that, as he started to fill his round table of what had happened. Lord Frey wanted to marry one of his sons and daughters to Ronard's heirs, and our benevolent king rejected. And frankly, who wouldn't? That old bastard is nothing but trouble. But what made my night was that Ronard's suspicions were right. His spy inside the castle had informed him that Lord Frey would strike during the feast when we were unarmed, and that this meeting was to see if he could get a bigger slice of cake. And once he didn't get what he wanted, well, here we are. Well, now this is a real party. I smiled, holding my spear tight. To think he would go that far, breaking the guest rights. Where's the honor? Ned muttered. So what do we do? Jon inquired. We destroy him and his house. Ronard smirked at us. I will make sure no one ever remembers House Frey after tomorrow. Sounds delightful. The party was as I had imagined, full of alcohol and other intoxicating substances to keep my men very drunk, making them easy targets. What the old Frey didn't know was that I had told my men about his little plan, and the ones with me inside had orders to pretend to be drinking until the doors to the feist were down. I had also ordered them to hide their weapons, all for dramatic purposes, of course, but that weren't the only orders I gave, because I had other plans for my men outside. Knowing his plan to the letter made it easier for me to counter his moves in every step. For one, I had already replaced his archers, and crossbowmen with mine all. While we were pretending to enjoy the party, you would be surprised how little sound a man makes when dying if you know where to strike. Little by little, my men would eliminate his outside, making sure to not make any sounds. And by the moment he decided to end me, all he would have left of his house would be his decrepit arse and his soon-to-be dead children. For now, all I had to do was wait and let things fall into place, nothing more but enjoying the show. Your Grace, Walder Frey said as he stood up his chair with a cup in his hand, making everybody take a seat except for the members of my round table. Ned, Jon, Oberin, and of course myself. I feel I need to do something more to show my appreciation and support to your cause. I'm intrigued. Go on. I smiled as I looked up, seeing the signal from one of my ravens that the men outside the castle were all dead. That was fast. Walder smiled as he signaled the little men. He still had something. I've given you meat and wine and music, but I haven't shown you the hospitality you deserve. My king is too sad you didn't want to form a bridge with us, an alliance. Oh, I see what you did there, a bridge. Haha, because your house sigil is a bridge. I chuckled. This either triggered the old man or made him see I was seeing through his plot all along. Kill them, Walder Frey ordered, tired of my playful attitude. I might create another house after I kill yours, Raven House. I pondered as Oberin jumped over the table, killing a man with a fucking fork. That guy sure is resourceful. Finally, Oberin laughed, pulling 2 long daggers off. I don't know. Where is your honor? Ned shouted, demanding the old men for an answer as he fought with a short sword barely long enough not to be considered dagger. Honor is worthless. Walder Frey smirked down at us. All right, this got boring, I said, snapping my fingers. Seconds later, arrows started to fly down on the Frey soldiers inside the room, killing one by one. Frey had a look of shock and terror as he started to put the points together, my attitude, my confidence during all this ordeal. He was old and stupid, but even he knew, now, that is, that I had on checkmate since the beginning. Don't bother trying to escape. I smiled. I already took over this castle. We can talk about this, Your Grace. Walder Frey begged, getting on his knees, fear, pure and unadulterated despair, taking hold of his very core. All the arrogance, confidence, and more he'd been showing up until now, completely gone, as if they never were there. I think we did. I chuckled, patting him on the head. You one of my kids? I said, no, you try to kill me. With that, I turned to my friends. Am I missing something? You are not, Your Grace, Ned said as he glared with intense rage at the old man crying, probably still wondering where was his honor or something. I think that's about right, Your Grace. Oberyn smiled. Jon nodded. So, as you can see, we talked about it. I sighed, so I will give you 1 minute to regain what little self-respect you have left, and then I will kill you. I have a child coming, Walder Frey said, rapidly pointing as his wife. The child will need his father. I killed all your family today. Every single one of them except for her. I pointed at his wife. Because she is the only member of your family that actually wanted to die, and I can't blame her. Sleeping with you must be a nightmare. I can't imagine a fate worse than that. Oh, for the love of God, Oberyn said in disgust. You had to put that image on my head? I will need therapy after this. Not my fault, Oberyn. I shrugged with a smile as I turned my attention back to the old man. So ready to die? I demand a trial by combat. Oh, that was unexpected. The old man was trying to use Westerosi laws against me, and while it was a clever move, he didn't think things through. For once he had no warriors, in which case he would have to fight for himself. Sure, I chuckled. Please go ahead, call your champion. Walder Frey said, slowly freezing as the realization hit him. He had no champion, and no ally he thought he had. Would send one to save him. He was worthless to everyone. Without his castle he was but an ant, and I feel I'm insulting ants. Oh yeah, you don't have any. I'm pretty sure that by this point my men have already wiped your army off the map. I chuckled as I grabbed his sword from the ground. Walder Frey was apparently stuck on a loop. By law, you are entitled to a champion. If no champ is available, you would have to fight for yourself. I smiled, tossing the sword I had grabbed at him. There you go. I can't fight. Walder Frey cried out. I can barely walk. Have mercy of this old man. Geez, talk about pathetic, I smirked. This is sad, very sad, but in a good way. Oberyn said, approving of this situation. Coward! Not even in death you have honor, Ned Stark growled. Grabbing a second sword from the ground, I started to approach the old man, with a smile slowly forming on my face as I eyed the girl he had forced to take his seed and marry him. An idea of sorts came to life. Lady Joyeuse Arenford. How would you like to kill this man? I mean, you kind of look like you want to slice his dick. No, I won't die at the hands of a weak and... The old man couldn't finish his sentence, for I had punched him with enough strength to render him immobile, but no unconscious. Your Grace. Desire, overwhelming desire. She was afraid of me, but I could see she wanted to take my offer more than anything. I don't think letting the young lady do that is a wise idea. Ned Stark said, a bit uncomfortable with my decision. We need to purge our own demons, Lord Stark, and for her to ever be at peace. She has to do it. You don't have to like it, but she has more rights than I do to kill him, I said with a tone that said my decision was final. I couldn't agree more, Oberyn said with a serious tone, probably imagining how he would make Tywin suffer or something. I want to kill him, Joyeuse Arenford said with tears running down her eyes. Anger, happiness, disgust, sadness, a turmoil of emotions going through her at the same time. Sure, enjoy. I choose you to be my champion. I nodded, leaving the young lady alone with her husband. After all, I had a castle to clean up, and an army to regroup, and the screams of pain of Walder would surely make this night memorable. The screams of pain that the last Frey was letting out filled the castle walls for hours, making for quite the BGM. I had no idea what the lady did to him while he was alive, but it sure sounded painful, very painful. What I didn't take into account at all was that once Walder died, the young Lady Arenford would decide to end her life, cutting her own throat. If I had to take a guess, I would say that the idea of being pregnant with that old bastard child was more than enough to drive her to a point of no return. At the very least, she got the justice she so desperately wanted. Ned Stark was still a bit uncomfortable to say something with my decision, but I frankly didn't care about his narrowed views of reality. Sometimes justice is obscure and messy. Not all justice is about honor or Superman shit. Besides, even if I'd killed the old man myself, she would have still killed herself. At least this way, she got to die with a smile on her face, or at the very least a sense of satisfaction. But taking all the killing of today aside for a second, I was kind of grateful with the Freys after all they had left me, with a beautiful castle very close to the south that would prove to be quite beneficial once the war with the Lannister starts. In short, I had access to the south, while the Lannisters and Stannis didn't have access to the north, at least not direct access. What it would take me hours to move, it would take them days. I think we should regroup with Dorne first, before we start moving, Ned said. And he was right. Oberyn had only brought with him a handful of Dornish soldiers, and in the north the Martells had only sent a small part of their army. We needed their full army before moving forward. Very well, I nodded. I knew full well I had to go to Dorne myself, to seal in blood the alliance with Dorne. One thing was Oberyn supporting me, but if I didn't have his brother kneeling, then, well, things could go south if they decide to stop helping me. Lord Stark, you are in charge of my army and people in my absence. Don't engage on combat unless it's unavoidable and totally necessary. I'll be back. I suppose I'll go with you, Oberyn smiled. We have an army to bring, and some Lannisters to kill. I chuckled. Tywin Lannister POV. Peter Baelish has requested to see me. He said he had wonderful news, and I couldn't help but wonder what was this little worm planning. He thought he was so clever, so cunning. But even a blind child could see through his pathetic schemes. But at times he was useful. Reason why he still breathes. Lord Hand, Peter Baelish greeted as he entered my office. My time is worth gold, Littlefinger. Speak, and for your sake go straight to the point, I said, taking a sip of my cup of wine. As you wish, Peter Baelish nodded. I wanted to let you know, Lord Hand, that I have taken care of Ronard. Soon we will be hearing of his sad demise. Isn't that wonderful? How could this worm say that he took care of our main enemy? If that was so easy, I would have done so already. Besides, Ronard was still on the twins. What has he done? What have you done? If my suspicions were right, Peter Baelish convinced the Freys to try and kill Ronard, but only a brainless piece of shit would ever think that would work. Ronard wasn't Ned Stark. He wasn't blinded by stupidity. He was playing the game. Quite superbly, if I might add, and he knew the best way to play it was to trust nobody, meaning an assassination attempt, even by using the guest rights, would prove to be useless. The kid defeated Braavos for fuck's sake. I made a deal with Lord Frey to dash. The moment his mouth confirmed my suspicions, he met the full force of my fist colliding with his teeth. Guards, take him to a room, and don't let him leave. I ordered the guards, who started to drag the imbecile off my presence. It was the best way. Peter Baelish shouted, trying to defend his case. Stop. I ordered the guards. Let me make a wild guess of what will actually happen. Ronard will go talk with Lord Frey. Lord Frey, being that he has no loyalties, will try to get a bigger offer. Once he doesn't, he will try your plan, but surprise, Ronard knew all along, and kills everyone, taking hold of the only straight passage to north. He is just a brat. We will. Peter Baelish tried to defend his idiotic point once again, but a slap proved to me efficient in shutting him up. You know, I know how things will play out. I asked Peter Baelish, who shook his head, afraid at this point for his life, because that's how I would have done it. If I were on his place, things would play exactly as I told you. People seem to underestimate him, because he comes from the north, others because he is young, and some because he comes from a small house. But I don't underestimate him. I might have at the beginning, but he proved I was wrong, and Littlefinger. Unlike many, I learned from my mistakes. Understand, Peter Baelish once again tried to talk, but I had grown tired of his annoying company. Take him, and don't let him get out of the castle. His fate is to be decided soon, depending on the outcome of his stupid plan. So you might as well pray. Peter Baelish, I said as I walked out of my solar, leaving a terrified Littlefinger behind as he was being dragged across the castle to a room. Robb Stark POV. Father had left me in charge of the house for the moment being. I was set to march with the rest of the army in a month to help them win this war, but now, that wasn't the most shocking thing. Jon, the bastard brother I always thought was my brother, was actually my cousin, a Targaryen. That revelation didn't help Mother at all. She thought this was a way of Ronard to humiliate her even more, making the bastard she hated a lord, an important lord. At this point, Mother's ramblings were stupid, but I suppose I understood somewhat what she was feeling to an extent. The surprise was overwhelming, but unlike her, my mind wasn't totally dominated by her uncalled hate for Ronard. So Jon is our cousin, Sansa muttered, still in disbelief. I nodded, lost in thought. Well, that makes sense considering I don't see Father with another woman, Sansa added, and she was right. We never really understood how Father could do that, and now things finally became clear. He's still my brother, Arya smiled. On that we can all agree, I chuckled. In the end, no matter who Jon was, Arya was right. He was our brother. He might have dragon blood on his veins, but he was a wolf all the way, and he was part of our pack. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, and we were going to survive this war. I was finally in Dorne after a month of traveling. The Sun's Playground was the hottest region of Westeros by a large margin. Their terrain was pretty rocky, with a lot of mountains and sand, being the only desert on the continent. Not exactly my cup of tea. I hate this climate more than anything. It was suffocating, but it would have to do for now. Isn't it beautiful? Oberyn smiled. It's unique. I nodded. I didn't want to say no, simply because sand wasn't my thing. But I wasn't here to enjoy the sights. No, I was here with one sole purpose, to discuss my alliance with Oberin Martell. While it was true that Dorne was the least populous kingdom of the Seven Kingdoms, it was also true that Dornishmen were able to raise around 50,000 soldiers. And for what I had seen and heard from Oberyn, their fighting style was pretty much the same to the Unsullied, making them a force to be reckoned with. Well, while I would love to give you a tour, we have no time, Oberyn smiled. My brother's waiting for you, so let's make haste. Sounds good to me. I nodded. The faster I dealt with this, the faster I would be in the battlefield, kicking the Lannisters' ass. Oh yeah, and Stannis' ass. It didn't take us long to arrive at the ancestral seat of House Mormont, and for a second, I felt I was still in Essos. The old palace had a unique architecture with a slender spear tower coming out of it, alongside a massive stone tower, with both stretching over 150 feet tall above the ground. The old palace had a dome of gold and leaded glass, making it the throne room. The floors were of pale marble. For them not being the richest house, their castle was one of the most expensive ones possibly. Odd, I thought my brother would be here. Oberyn hummed deep in thought. Since we entered the castle, he had taken upon himself to find his brother. Maybe this is his way to give me a tour. He must be at his solar. As we walked around the castle, down to Doran's solar, a girl rushed at Oberyn, hugging him. At first I thought that it was one of his many lovers, but I was proven otherwise when she called him daddy, which still had me at doubt, but then he called her daughter, and to be honest, I still wasn't completely sure. My king, allow me to present you my daughter, Tywin Sand. Oberyn smiled as the girl bowed, and holy shit was she different to her TV counterpart, like a fucking lot. They didn't share any similarities at all. A pleasure to meet you, my king, Tywin said in a sultriest tone, biting her lips. Jesus, does the horny runs in the family. The pleasure is mine. Not yet. Tywin winked at me, but soon. I kind of feel I need to sleep with an eye open, or I will wake up with her riding me. Holy fucking Molly. Sorry, but I'm a married man, and I don't think your queen is into trios. Honey, for the sake of daddy's balls, don't hit on the king. Both him and the queen are very, very scary. Oberyn pseudo-joked about it. No fun, Tywin pouted, as I was lost at how different she was to what I expected. So far everyone was somewhat similar to their show counterparts. Yes, they had their differences, but not by this much. Tywin has a fair white, almost snow-colored skin, with golden hair and deep blue eyes with dimples bloom in her cheeks. And she also had a gentle, sweet voice, almost as if she was naive and innocent. Perhaps that was part of her game, to make others lower their guard. Father, you are back. Another voice came into the scene. Turning around, I found a woman around 29 years old approaching Oberyn with a smile. Unlike Tywin, this one was easy to recognize. While she was indeed different to what I had expected. She wasn't so massively different that I would miss the similarities if I was right. She was Obara's sand. Obara. Oberin hugged her, as Tywin just kept on staring at me, with hungry eyes. Did you miss something? I inquired, raising an eyebrow at Tywin, who simply giggled in return. My king, Obara bowed. I apologize for my sister. She can't control herself at times. I could see she had a hard, tough look, with well-defined muscles that screamed she had dedicated her life to the martial art way. She was a warrior in all accounts. It's all right. Nothing bad with some window shopping from time to time. I smiled. It's when you get handsy that you get into some trouble. I love that. Oberyn laughed. I will use that line sometime. Now it was only a matter of time for the last snake of the desert to appear. I wonder how Nymeria will look. Would she be within what I expected or completely out of the spectrum, like Tywin? Father. Bingo. Sometimes if like the universe listens to my thoughts. Inwardly chuckling, I turned around to see Nymeria running towards Oberyn with a wide, happy smile. Nymeria? Oberyn smiled back at her, and it seemed the only one out of the spectrum was Tywin. Though Nymeria was considerably more attractive to her show counterpart, she had a nice figure, with straight black hair worn in a long braid which pulls back from a widow's peak. She had dark eyes which were large and lustrous, and her full lips were wine red and curved, making a silk. After she hugged the ever-living shit out her father, she turned to me and bowed. My king, a pleasure to meet you. I smiled. We have heard great things about you. They say you are a great warrior. Nymeria smiled. Perhaps we could spar later? Allow me to stop you right there. Oberyn chuckled, looking at his daughters. While I have no doubt you three can beat any man, our king is no man. He is an untamed beast with unparalleled skill in combat. And when I say that, it's because I experienced firsthand how massively outskilled I was against him. I couldn't even touch him, and if I'm being honest, he can probably take on all of us at the same time without breaking a sweat. Well, Tywin said, biting her lips. Impressive, Obara muttered. I suppose we can still learn from a defeat from him, Nymeria said, looking at me. With dare, I say admiration. As much as I would love to kick your asses. I have someone to meet? I chuckled. So, how about after my meeting we fight, you three and your father against me? That seems hardly fair, Nymeria said. For you, that is, I chuckled. Sounds great, but the king is right. We have a meeting to attend to. Oberyn chuckled, leaving his daughters behind, as we walked to Doran's Martell Solar. The solar was like everything on this castle, incredibly expensive, with almost everything made out of gold or other precious gems. Fortunately for us, Doran was inside, sitting as he was about to eat fruit that kind of looked like an orange. My king, I would bow, but you can see I can't. Oberin Martell greeted me. He looked considerably older than Oberyn, even though they weren't that apart. Maybe whatever disease he had was affecting his looks. It's all right, you don't have to bow now. We first have a lot to discuss, don't you think? Yes, we do, Doran smiled. Nick Fury, Ravenicus POV. The same motherfucker that we had stolen the dragon horn had retrieved another one from the old city of Valyria. But I wasn't going to let this bitch get ahead of us. Initiate bitch stranding plan now. I cawed, ordering the Krakens to attack his ships. My plan was simple. After studying this motherfucker's routine, I had noticed he was always the last one to board the ships. With that in wing, I led all his men to board the ships so that the Krakens would strike them down. What in the seven hells? Euron Greyjoy shouted in disbelief, seeing his ships and his other horns sink into the ocean. Surprise, motherfucker, I said from above. It had taken me some time, but I learned that we could imitate human speech, and this worked well right now. You talk, Euron Greyjoy said, angry. I remember you. You were that weird bird that took my horn. That's right, motherfucker. Enjoy your stay, bitch, I said as I got ready to leave. And good luck telling others about this. Nobody is going to believe your ass. I will kill you, Euron Greyjoy shouted in anger. You will certainly try, but will fail, I replied. You should feel lucky that your life belongs to the Cornbringer. Otherwise, your motherfucking ass would be inside Jerry the Kraken. With that, I flew with my squad out of the scene, leaving a very angry human behind. While Oberyn was a good ally and friend, what I really needed was to see what Doran wanted. He was the head of the house, and his opinion and approval were the things that would provide me with the army I needed. Your Grace, what I want is not big. Doran smiled softly. What I really want will be barely an inconvenience for you. I want House Lannister and House Baratheon gone, out of the maps, out of the history. I knew Oberyn hated House Lannister, and while I knew they hated the Baratheons, I didn't know they were on the same level as the Lannisters on their hate list. You want me to disband their houses? I inquired. Yes, I want every member of those two houses that survives to be nothing, bastards, beggars, whores. I want them gone out of sight. Doran smiled with hostility. That was in general how I wanted things to be. I nodded. I was already informed by Oberyn you wanted the main Lannisters for you to play, and I agreed to that. Anything else besides those two things? No, that's all we have ever wanted, Doran smiled. So all that is left is for you to kneel, brother. Oberyn snickered behind his brother. You have to make everything sound perverted, don't you? Doran sighed in exasperation. If not me, who else? Oberyn smirked at him. No one. I sighed. With a lot of effort, Doran got off his chair and slowly but surely started to kneel. I pledge my house and my people to your king, House Mormont, first of his name. I smiled at his effort as I walked up to him. For as long as I live, for as long as my house stand, we will stand by you. I gave the Lord a helping hand as I added, together we will bring upon our enemies the justice that has been denied to not only your house, but the world. I desire nothing but that, my liege. Doran smiled full of hope, but his eyes denoted anger, not directed towards me. I knew that much, but still I could see his eyes sparkling with hate and excitement. After all, this was probably the first time in years he finally had the chance to let go of his emotions, because he finally had a chance to get his revenge. Well, it seems Dorne is yours, Oberyn smiled. It seems it is, I nodded. So about that fight you promised my daughters. Oberyn smiled. The king did what? Doran inquired. Oh, nothing, just a friendly match between allies, in which we will get our asses handed to us. Pretty badly, might I add. Oberyn chuckled. I suppose it would do us go to see how good is our king in combat, Doran sighed. I'll believe he is good. Oberyn chuckled. Too good. I thanks. I wasn't sure how to respond to his praises, not really used to get them so often. The sand snakes of Dorne being me, I had to be honest, they were good, better than the 80% of people I've killed, and at least 90% more lethal with all the poison they used on their weapons. If their opponent was anyone but me, they would have demolished the poor guy with their amazing teamwork, coordination, and skill. Oberyn alone was a beast already, and with his daughters alongside him, it was as if I fought with a pack of trained animals. But regardless of their incredible skill and amazing teamwork, they met with a wall they just couldn't climb, and because of that, they were utterly defeated, one-punch style. I mean, not literally. I knocked each one with a single punch after I got bored of dancing around them as I dodged their attacks. I've never felt so powerless. Tywin muttered as she turned to me. I like it. Jesus. I can feel the moist from here, still married. This, your skill as a warrior, is outstanding. I can't wait to fight by your side and learn from you. Obara praised me. She had taken this defeat as an opportunity to learn from me. I'll be my pleasure. I chuckled at her enthusiasm. At first I thought Father was overselling your skills, but even with all that praise, he came up short. I feel like a child trying to hit the sun. Nymeria chuckled from the ground. I'm glad beyond comprehension that you are on our side. Well, while I love winning, I think it's time we move an army to the south. I smiled, turning to Doran, right? You are absolutely right, Doran said, getting out of his shock. It seems that the tales of my skills were considered among the population a tad over the top. Awesome, I smiled, deciding to try the local food while I waited for Doran to mobilize his army. Oberin Martell POV. My opportunity for revenge, for retribution was finally here. I could already hear Tywin screaming in pain for me as I used his pain as a lullaby. The mere thought of seeing him suffer made my day. No, my life. And today was more than enough proof he was going to deliver them to me. His prowess in combat was inhuman, too perfect, too out of comprehension. He moved with such precision, with such grace, it was like he was born to fight. I had no idea if he would make a good king, and frankly I didn't care. The 7 kingdoms could burn for all I cared. as long as he did what he promised me. He would have my undying loyalty. And after that demonstration of power, I knew that he would. He was a breed for war. And for war he was going. I almost feel pity for the poor souls that will get on his way. Get ready, men. We are leaving for the south in a week. I commanded. We fight for our king, for the justice that had been denied to us. For the king. For Dorne. The soldiers chanted with one voice, with stomping the ground, making the very streets of Dorne shake ever so light. Ned Stark POV. Stannis was moving towards us, but why? He knew better than that. He was a war veteran. If he rushed at us and tried to attack us while we were the twins, he would lose. He had no chance against us, so why? Why would he commit such a stupid move? Did he have a secret plan? Some kind of plot I was not seeing? It didn't matter. Ronard had left me in charge, and I would stop whatever Stannis was planning, no matter what. We have to be ready for whatever Stannis is planning. Stannis was a very, very bad politician, but he was a good general. If he was moving, there was something I had yet to see. I have already ordered the archers to be ready. Jon nodded. Good. We will need them ready for when Stannis arrives. I nodded. Melisandre POV. My prince, my light, my master was here. It was time to end this once and for all. I had convinced Stannis that the god of light wanted him to defeat Ronard with just 5,000 men, and that he used the rest of his army to attack the Lannisters at the same time. At first he was reluctant and almost killed me, but I showed him the fire, a vision of Ronard with the crown, but he didn't see Ronard but himself on the throne, and that was all it took to push him to his own grave. Soon we'll be together. I smiled. I couldn't wait to be his tool for war. Tywin Lannister POV. Stannis was moving his entire army, or at least the majority of it, toward my house. Why and the how was beyond me. I knew Stannis was stupid, but this was a new low even for him. But it mattered very little. His move was stupid, and I would crush him down for it. And while we would lose some men, this victory would be worth it. Without Stannis on the game, I would be able to focus my entire self into erasing Ronard off the map. This was the opening we needed to destroy Stannis. He had let himself wide open, and I would strike without hesitation, and if I had any luck, I would be able to absorb whatever Stannis leaves behind. Tell Jaime to be ready. We are marching home. I ordered my men as I walked out of the war tent, wondering what brought this stupid move on Stannis' part. I knew since the beginning he would lose, but not like this. Something else was in a play, but what? Stannis Baratheon POV. The crown, the throne, the 7 kingdoms, everything was finally within my grasp. That vision. The fire showed me a king, a brave king fighting against the others, a king that was loved, feared, and respected, and that king was me. Finally, I would get what was rightfully mine and bring Westeros to an era of glory and peace. Melisandre, my trusty advisor, had showed me the will of the light, and I would obey, for I was the champion of the light. The paragon of justice. I was the chosen one. And as the chosen one, I had to obey my God, for he had blessed me with his pure magnificence. And for me to bathe on that beautiful glory I saw on the fire, all I would have to do was to end Ronard with an army of 5,000 men. Just that. At first I thought Melisandre was trying to kill me, but I was a fool to trust the emissary of my lord. My beautiful lord. She was but a messenger, and I had the audacity to strike her because I doubted her words, the words of my God. We will win because the light is with us. I cried out with a smile on my face because it was true. No matter how many soldiers they had, no matter how many walls they had, no matter how many allies they had, in the end it didn't matter because they would fall. No man can stand against the will of a God, and I was the will of light incarnated in flesh and blood. Do not fear. The light is with us. My king. I don't think this is the best idea. Braavos muttered in a barely audible tone. The will of the light is absolute. Do not fear, Onion Knight. The light will protect you, I said as I glared at him. So stay silent and obey. As you wish, my king. Braavos bowed as he left my sight. No matter how much my men thought I was crazy, it would be worth it. Soon, the world would be mine. Ser Braavos, Seaworth POV. She finally did it. That crazy wretch led Stannis into her same level. At first was tolerable. She didn't do much, burning the monuments to the Seven. That was fine. Spreading the word of her religion, sure, why not? But then she decided to turn the crazy a few thousand notches above. Burning people, kids, and here we are, marching to our imminent death, 5,000 men against 8,000 men. Yeah, the God of Light was going to save us. He might as well burn us now and save Ronard the trouble of cutting our heads. I suppose I should make peace with what is going to happen. I lived 40 long years, more than many. I had many kids. I did many things. Perhaps it was better to die here like a dog. The little lady will be sad, that's for sure. I muttered, that girl was so innocent, so naive, yet so smart. She even learned how to read better than me in less time. Not that I read very well, but still, 42 years old is not that bad. At least I will be remembered as an idiot, but remembered nonetheless. Joffrey Baratheon POV. Ronard was at last here in Westeros, and it was finally the moment to show that worm who was the superior being. I would kill and destroy everything he held dear. His wife and children would be raped to death in front of him. Seeing him powerless would cement me as the most powerful king to have ever lived. His tears, his pain, the screams of his family, they would all bring me endless hours of happiness. I just couldn't wait. Soon for now you'll do. I laughed as I decided to focus for the moment on what I was doing, skinning one of the maids alive, while she wasn't Ronard. Her screams of pain every time I broke some or ripped something was the best. You should feel grateful a king seems you're worthy of his time whore. No, hold her down. I will take her left eye out. MPPPPH. The maid tried to scream, her terror overtaking her. Yes, this is what I wanted. Seeing her face, her pain, her suffering. This was the absolute best. Bob, the Raven POV. I'm Gary. Unlike the majority of my high brothers and sisters, I don't have a unique trait. I don't wear weird clothes, I don't talk weird, and I'm not a master chef. I just play an old boring Bob. And while I might not have special abilities and or personality like some of my brothers and sisters, I would still do my absolute best to serve the great Cornbringer. Scream, scream. I could faintly hear Joffrey shouting with pleasure. Deciding it was best to investigate, I flew to the source of the sound, finding Joffrey with a skinning knife above. Oh God! *Ka, for the love of corn. Well, it's settled. Inbreeding between humans is an atrocity against every natural law. I cawed, leaving the area, feeling sorry for the poor thing under him. But soon that mutilated human would have the justice his or her mutilated body deserved. Ronard was that for everything justice and corn, not necessarily in that order. Daenerys POV. Yunkai was ours, with every masthead hanging on the wall of the city as a display of what happens when you try to oppose the might of the bears and the fury of the dragons. My queen, Dario Naharis said as he knelt down, there are reports of the other slaver cities preparing for you. No matter how much you prepare for a natural disaster, when it hits, there is nothing you can do. No matter how much they tried or prepared, they would fall. My queen, Missandei said as she entered the throne room of Yunkai, with Geralt on her arms. The young prince has been asking for you, for hours. Masama, Geralt babbled, extending his arms towards men eager to me on my arms. The princess is sleeping, Missandei answered before I could even ask. She was definitely the best babysitter I could ask for. You wanted to be with Mommy? I smiled as I bombarded my sweet little bundle of joy, my treasure with kisses. All right, you can be with Mommy. How can I say not to that cute face? It's like Switch. Dario muttered. You said something? I inquired with narrowed eyes. He did let me burn him. Crow flew towards him. He was now bigger than Bear. Could you please stop? Try to burn everything. Rhaegar did the same, but for some reason slapped his brother with his tail. Neltharion is out there with Dad, while we stay here doing nothing. It's not fair. I want to burn things too. Crow hissed at his brother, probably angry for the tail slap. I know, but focus that burning desire into other things, like training or, oh no, singing. Regal hissed back calmly. Burning desire. Was that a pun? Crow narrowed his eyes at Regal as he hissed. Maybe. Regal hissed one last time, flying out of the room, with Crow chasing him close behind. I will get you. Puns are stupid. All right, that pun didn't tip the... Scales in my favor, asterisk. Asterisk arg? Asterisk. That was the last one, I'm sorry. Without Ronard, I can only imagine what they saying. I chuckled, wondering what were my two dragon babies fighting about. Asterisk, all right, let's stop. I don't want this battle to drag on. Asterisk. I will burn your balls. Maybe wisdom beyond human understanding, or maybe just a playful game between brothers. No one would ever know. I woke up once again to the scorching sun of Dorne. Today was the day we were supposed to leave this litter box Oberin calls home. I have sand in places where sand should not be in any circumstances, but I had to be a good guest. But God, I hate sand. My king, my father wants to see you, Tywin said as she entered my room without knocking. One of the many reasons I wanted to leave this place, besides my powerful hate for the sand around, was that Tywin was literally trying to get into my pants, like really trying, and usual methods to stop this shit didn't work, because apparently she kind of liked that. The more aggressive I got letting her know I didn't want her, the more sexy I would become. Thanks, I'll be there in a minute, I grumbled, wondering if breaking her arms would put a stop to her shenanigans, because not even Oberin could. It's a pleasure, Tywin said, biting her lips, as she approached me with a hungry look. Okay, I tried being vocal about it, but that didn't work, so I'll be physical with you. I smiled with no emotions behind the smile besides annoyance and a tad of anger. Try hitting on me again, and I will snap your neck. Is that clear? Tywin smiled. Crystal, my king. And even after a threat, the fucking crazy bitch was horny. What is wrong with these people? I swear it's like she took what Oberin had and turned that shit to 100. Like even Oberin has a sense of self-preservation, but this crazy bitch has none. Even if I was single, I would not fuck her. Not at all. Rule number 1 of the man manual. You don't stick in crazy. Begone now. I grunted, pushing the crazy woman off my room. Nick Fury, Ravenicus POV. My mission to stop the bitch-ass motherfucker of Euron, who the fucking cares, was a total success. The idiot was stranded, walking alone, slowly succumbing to his imminent death, and I was here with my special squad, enjoying every moment of it. I can't die here, Euron muttered weakly. He was starving and very weak. Oh no, are you dying? I flew toward a rock nearby. If so, let me get some corn. I want to enjoy this show. You fucking talking bird. I will eat you. Euron growled, crawling over to me. Oh no, if only I could fly. Oh wait, I flew off the rock. Well, boys, load your guns and shoot. I ordered my squad, who did as they were told. Enjoy what's for dinner, bitch. Soon after, every raven took a number 2 on him. Enjoy is the chef's special. I will end your fucking species. Euron growled, his clothes and head covered in bird shit. We'll be back after lunch. The boys are practicing their aim, so we'll be back after every meal. I flew off with a sense of satisfaction after I said that. I wasn't entirely sure he would survive long enough to get anywhere. Back to Ronard POV. After my usually unusual morning, the Ravens fill me in with what was going on in the Twins. Apparently Stannis had decided to attack the Twins and was marching to his own death. If I had to take a guess, Melisandre was behind all that. Stannis was way too experienced, way too seasoned in the art of war to come up with such a strategy. So let me see if I get this straight. Oberyn said, taking a deep breath. Stannis is marching towards the Twins with 5,000 soldiers, while everyone knows you have around 5,000 soldiers waiting for you, plus another 45,000 coming from Dorne. That's the summary, yeah, I nodded. That sounds like a very, very stupid idea, Dorne commented, but I suppose we shouldn't complain when the enemy makes mistakes. I suppose, Oberyn nodded. Well, it's time to go, I said, clapping my hands, getting their attention. Now that we know Stannis is a thing of the past, we need to move fast, because this also means I'm the only target the Lannister have left. Wise choice, my king, Dorne smiled. It took a week, but I finally had what I had come for. An army of 45,000 Dornish soldiers ready to fight and aid me in my quest. Time to board the ships. I smiled, happy with how things were going for me so far. House Mormont, Ravenicus. Father had left me on Bear Island with one order, to wait for his signal. He wanted me to stay hidden until the time for me to flight with him into the battlefield came. And there was nothing I wanted more than that, to prove him I was a good warrior like him, a dragon in body, a bear in spirit, and a raven in brains. I would soon burn his enemies away and protect our family like he does, the Lannisters. Fuck them, I'll burn them. The Baratheon fucks those too, I'll burn them. The champion of who knows what? Fuck that guy too, I'll burn him. I'll be so strong that father will have to rely on me. Fuck yeah. I growled as I breathed fire into the sky. Stop that. A horse complained, you will start another fire. Last time we barely had time to stop it. Poor Jimmy will never be forgotten. You are right. Poor Jimmy. He will be missed. I hissed in lament. Stop talking like I'm dead. Sometimes I can still hear him. The horse cried out. He was the bravest squirrel ever. For the love of nuts, it's no fun anymore. He was, I hissed in agreement, holding my laughter in. Fuck you, overgrown lizard. Cersei Lannister POV. The truth about me and Jaime was spreading like a plague that couldn't be contained. People were starting to question more and more the legitimacy of Joffrey. The only thing that placated them was that they feared our house. Rightfully so. But still, the whispers, the looks, everything I had worked so hard to mold was falling apart. But even all this was something I could deal with. What I really feared was at some point father would start asking questions and doubting my words. If he for a moment believed what those rumors said, he would kill us. Father only loved one thing, and one thing only, his legacy, and if he thought someone would destroy it, he would not hesitate to strike back. I'm afraid, Jaime, I whispered as I rested my head on his chest. Don't be afraid. If push comes to shove, I will fight father for us, the entire world if necessary, Jaime reassured. Do you really have to leave? I inquired, wondering why did he have to go and fight for Casterly Rock when all that mattered was here. It's my duty. I fight for you and my children, Jaime chuckled, and I always will. Don't you dare to die, or I'll kill you, I muttered. Only you could do that, Jaime laughed. Olenna Tyrell POV. Stannis has finally did it. He full crazy on us, attacking without strategy, without nothing. To think he was one of the many options I had considered for an alliance, knowing his wife was unable to birth him a boy, but I'm glad I didn't move the pieces towards him. But I suppose I can respect his stupidity to some extent. He is dying on his own terms after all. Not many men can say that. Once a stupid man, always a stupid man. Now that he had decided to die, all there was left was Ronard and his allies. This was where the real war started. Ronard had 3 kingdoms behind him if we counted the Iron Islands he previously conquered. Grandmother, the wedding is in a month. Aren't you excited? I smiled, looking at the poor naive girl I loved so much. She was smart, but her own innocence and ambition blinded her to the truths of the world. She was marrying, and because of that she would hold the title of a queen. But did that really matter in the end if we didn't win? She was way too carefree for what was happening around. But I suppose it's my duty to worry for everyone in this family, for now that is. I'm thrilled, I replied.